OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
It's been a funny old Euros where all of a sudden the entire world is cheering the Danes on as they absolutely sack Russia in Copenhagen last night. But that's the joy of sport. We'd love to hear from you this morning. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can always leave a comment on the YouTube channel or use the hashtag OTBAM. No Owen today. Dave McIntyre is in instead. Dave, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good, Joe. How are you today? What a beautiful morning it is indeed.
The sense of overwhelming joy that somehow some kind of restorative justice was done yesterday, it was good. I mean, that's kind of what, like, I don't know about you, but my social media was like alive from people literally all around the world who are not football fans talking about watching the Danes.
Yeah, I loved it. And there aren't that many stories like that, these sort of feel-good stories where everybody who isn't Danish can join with the Danes and back in their team. And at the same time, I also had a little bit of sympathy for Finland as well, because they really dug in last night. I only managed to watch the second half. We were telling the two boys how it was the longest day of the year and that we should really head out late to the beach. So we did that last night, knowing that I could get home just in time to watch the second half of the game. And I had the two different screens on, watching ITV and BBC, as I tried to figure out when each goal went in, what that meant goal difference-wise, what the Danes needed to do. But once they got their third goal, and you knew there was no way Finland were coming back against Belgium, they were like the golfer standing on the 18th tee, unless your name is Jean van der Velde, with a 3 or 4 shot lead, knowing that the last 10 minutes were something to be savoured because the Russians were not coming back. The Finns weren't going to do anything against Belgium. And they could even in their own minds think about having a chat with Christian Eriksen after the game and getting themselves set for the last 16 and what the full-time whistle was going to do for them. What a ridiculous 10 days it's been for those players. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, and they must be feeling like, you know, there's a bit of fate knocking about, and who knows what's going to happen next, because they're up against a Welsh side who looked like they were a little bit tired from travel in their last game, and who obviously could, put in an amazing performance themselves. Will be looking at a fixture against the Danes going, oh yeah, bring it on. So it's starting to reach that point now where most games matter for some reason or other, and certainly plenty for us to get our teeth stuck into. In terms of the contenders, are the Dutch contenders now? Do we have to take them seriously, or is this just a flash in the pan, easy enough group? What's going on?
They're contenders in that they have done exactly what's been asked of them to this point, and there are 2 or 3 of their players, most notably Memphis, who are standing out in terms of the company they've been keeping within the group stages. But that's really, in my opinion anyway, that's only as far as you can take it as regards the Dutch, because they just haven't been tested. And I would say the same about Italy, who have impressed me more than any other side. But who have they played really? I mean, they've cantered through their group. They haven't been asked any serious questions. Belgium are obviously so potent, and they are probably the side that have more cumulative world-class players than any other. But what's holding me back on passing any real long-term judgment on the Belgians is the second half against Denmark, when they were made to look very ordinary. I thought Denmark could have had 4 or 5 goals in that game. It's why my feeling was always, if Denmark could just get over the trauma of the Eriksen episode, that the draw was opening up for them. If they could just get through the group stage, they could take down one of the really big fish in this tournament. So Belgium, Italy, my 2 favourites for now, but I don't think any of the top sides have been tested to the point where you can form any real judgment around them. As you say, things are going to start to get very interesting from this point on. Yeah,
so you don't know what you think yet of France, you don't know yet what you think of Germany or Portugal, or do you?
Portugal, their performance against Germany was jarring. Portugal were one of my favourites because I just thought that even outside the starting 11, they had a couple of guys they could bring in that could be game changers, real strike runners, as regard, if to borrow rugby terminology, if they needed somebody to come in and make an impact off the bench. The guys like João Felix, but they were so poor defensively, and it's very difficult to watch a Ruben Dias Marshall's defence being pulverised as they were against the Germans. And I think Portugal are going to go out. I can see them losing to France, and maybe their 3 points not being enough to get through, because there are so many teams on 4 points that are possibly going to finish in a third place position. They won't be helped, for example, by England's group. I'm happy to write Portugal off now on the basis of what happened the other night, albeit I could be left with egg in my face very soon. Who was the other contender there? It was just Portugal you mentioned?
France and Germany.
Yeah. Germany were beaten by an own goal by the world champions. I think there was too much read into that performance.
Okay.
they were kind of rock solid aside from that, and they probably would have deserved a scoreless draw had they come out from that, and people would have given them plenty of credit for that. So I mean, the result dictated the perception of that performance to a huge extent. And then they played very well against Portugal. They rediscovered their goal-scoring touch. They found out again why Muller is so important to them and has been for so long in his career. And the French, on paper, the best team. From back to front, I don't really see a weakness in their side, apart from the fact that they never seem to play with the handbrake off. And they won the World Cup without playing with the handbrake off. I thought Euro 2016 should have been won by them, but again, they never seem to be, either whether it was intentional or not, never seemed to be playing with a full flow. You never got the sense that they were giving you everything that you had expected to see when you tuned in to watch them. Will they give us that in the coming weeks? Is it a switch that can be flicked on or off depending on the circumstances? I'm not sure that it is. If you can just change a mindset once, maybe they need to be a goal or two down, which is not a position this French side ever find themselves in.
Except against Ireland.
Well, yeah, look, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and second,
same team though.
They were. You always got the sense that against Ireland, who were going to flag at some stage, the goals were going to come.
They were.
But
they were.
Against Portugal, when Eder got that goal, France offered very little.
No, it's true.
We're going back a long way. That's 5 years ago. I mean, a lot of water flowed under the bridge since.
It's true. So that's the contenders in the Euros. The Gaelic Football Championship is back this weekend. You're doing the Kerry-Clare game, is that right?
Yeah, down in Fitzgerald Stadium for Sky on Saturday evening. It'll be great to be back at a game again. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping we get some Killarney weather that you expect maybe in late June or July. I just have a suspicion the conversation around the contenders for the All-Ireland Football Championship will be a lot shorter than the contenders around Euro 2020.
There's nobody apart from Kerry who's a contender. Is that what you think?
Not right now. I mean, can you point to some evidence that would push me in a different direction?
Carl McShane is back training for Tyrone. Like, Canavan's going to miss the Cavan game, but we'll be back if they win that. And you would assume that at this stage, I know I'm not writing off Cavan, but I am. I don't know. I'm trying to make cases. I think that Mayo, without Killian, I'm sorry, it'd be a miracle for them to beat the Dubs this year. I mean, maybe, it would just be a miracle for them, for that to happen.
Well, look, Mayo and Donegal are the two standout options, but Mayo minus Cillian O'Connor and running into Dublin in an All-Ireland semi-final, and also having to get over Galway, perhaps a more defensively minded Galway that Mayo will face this time around without Cillian O'Connor, who I think his playmaking abilities are underrated. It's because of his unbelievable scoring record, but he's a very cute player as well, and he can feed in other forwards. That's what you're going to need if Galway are stacking 12 or 13 men behind the ball. And Donegal having to come through the preliminary round, I think they have to play 4 Ulster Championship games in a 5-week spell. And they are going to have to be close to their best to win all of those. I mean, they're going to be playing Derry potentially in the next round if they get over the first hurdle. And Derry look like they're playing with so much confidence. They're a side reborn under, who would have thought it, Rory Gallagher, putting up big scores. Their forwards playing with a real self-belief. And I think Derry could be just lying in wait for Donegal. A Donegal side, whether it's with Michael Murphy or without, if he is there, he's not going to be flying. He's not going to be fully fit. And the problem is, if they manage to get out of their provinces, which I think is in significant doubt at the moment, those two teams, who are my two favourites outside the big two, they run into Kerry and Dublin in the Kerry and Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-finals. And maybe Michael Murphy has hung around long enough to be hitting his mark at that stage. And taking on Dublin or Kerry and Croke Park in an All-Ireland semi-final isn't beyond the realms of possibility. But right now, when you assess the evidence that you've had before you in the previous few weeks, it is almost impossible not to see Kerry play Dublin in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, and the thing is, if Donegal do come through Ulster, they'll need everybody to be in the fullness of their health, no suspensions, and everybody actually playing as well as they possibly can. So it's good health and good form. And you can't manage your way through. You can't give somebody minutes here and there because you've got to go full bore to try and win every single match.
And Kerry are in the opposite boat because they can do exactly that.
Well, I mean, Clare were brilliant in the league and really should have got promotion to Division 1. So you've been doing your work for this weekend. What do you think is a realistic margin of victory here? Is it a 5-point game? Is it a 3-point game? Is it a bit closer than we've all thought?
We all would like to think it's a bit closer than we all thought, wouldn't we? Look, I don't want to deter the Sky Sports viewers from tuning in on Saturday evening, so I'm saying absolutely tune in. Look, watching David Clifford in full flow is reason enough to watch the game on Saturday.
I don't think Clare are going to cause an upset here, but I think they're going to make this game tight and competitive and a bit nasty and a bit sticky for a Kerry team who will have some ghosts from last season.
I admire your glass half full optimism, Ger, and I'm trying to get on board with it. There are, in terms of the overall picture for Clare football, there are massive reasons to be optimistic. They came so close to getting promotion to Division 1, and given that they were playing in Division 4 7 years ago, just before Colin Collins took the reins, I mean, that would be quite an incredible achievement. The manner in which they finished against Mayo last weekend, when they outscored them significantly in the second half, is also a kernel for optimism. I think the loss of Gary Brennan and Gordon Kelly in the off-season to retirement is a really difficult one. They do still have some very good players, and they have guys like Cleary Malone if he's fit. We know what David Tuberty can bring to the party if he's given the opportunities to score. But I certainly would be confident that Clare will give a good account of themselves and that they will put up a half-decent score in Fitzgerald Stadium. But how do you keep Kerry from scoring 218 on Saturday evening? In perfect conditions? It's bound to be dry. They're going to be in full flow. The ghosts of 2020 will be driving them on. There will be nobody dropping back. There will be nobody sitting back if Kerry find themselves in a winning position going into the final quarter. Kane will want them to go forward and pulverise Clare and get into that semi-final with a little bit of momentum behind them.
4-15 to 3-9. That's my 4-9. 4-15 to 4-9 is my prediction.
Well, I take that as long as 2 or 3 of those Clare goals weren't scored in garbage time in the last 15 minutes, that if they were maybe scored in the first quarter, and then it would be a game for a significant proportion of the 70-odd minutes. But I'm really looking forward to it. And I've never watched Clare in the last 2 years and not admired the manner in which they played the game, because Colin Collins has never been a manager that has looked at his squad and thought, we need to shut up shop here and try and limit the score. They've never done that. They've always tried to go after the opposition. And for that reason, whenever they play, even if it's against a big gun, it's always entertaining.
All right, 7:42 this morning here on OTB AM. Let me tell you what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock. Phil is with us. We're going to talk to him about the Euros. We've got Martin Lipton to preview England's chances and talk a little bit about the offer that has been made apparently by Man City for Harry Kane. Run you through the sports pages. I'm going to speak with Egan McCrystal about her journey to the Paralympics in Tokyo. We've got Johnny Kokborg, who is our man in Denmark, who was in Copenhagen last night in the stadium. And then Greg O'Shea from Love Island to the Olympics. It is a fairly remarkable journey that he's made, not selected as part of the original 7 squad that just qualified in Monaco, a late call-up and then straight into the team and nailed down a place. And then Jordan Conroy going to play us out from 9:30 this morning. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Phil, good morning to you. How are you?
How are you doing, Ger? How are you getting on?
Everybody's had their faith in humanity restored by what Denmark did to Russia last night. It's one of those, like unbelievable, in 20 years' time, when people look back on this Euros, whoever wins it, they'll be like, yeah, that was the Christian Eriksen Euros. That was Denmark, who had to come out, play the second half, still a bit shell-shocked the second day, put up a brilliant performance against a good team, and then absolutely annihilate Russia.
Yeah, they took a while to get going. Actually, the Damsgaard goal really settled them down. The first 25 minutes, I thought Russia were quite comfortable and Denmark were struggling to create anything. But then there was just that sense, even before the goal came, that they'd started it up. But obviously they've home advantage, place packed, place rocking, and then great goal from Damsgaard, who looks like a really serious player. And then in the second half, they're gifted the second goal when Poulsen scores. And then it's a case of, obviously the 2 games are going on at the same time. I found myself trying to flick over to the Belgium game because, the story of the first half was Belgium owned the ball but just couldn't break Finland down. But you felt that eventually they will. And you knew by the team that Roberto Martinez picked that when you saw the likes of De Bruyne and Hazard and Lukaku in particular, who'd be looking at that game last night thinking, this is how I get ahead in the scoring charts. Now, he scored 1. He had 1 ruled out for offside, which, look, maybe I need to go to Specsavers because I've looked at it a few times and I'm still, it's marginal stuff, and it's one of those where if this is what...
It was overturned, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Although everything's getting overturned these days because they're told not to flag, so that matters less now, does it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, when there was that kind of feeling around Lukaku for a while that his touch wasn't great. If you look at the goal that was disallowed, Kevin De Bruyne absolutely fizzed it in at him. He kills it and then sticks it away. But obviously it was chalked out for offside. His goal he took pretty well as well. But go back to the Denmark game, then obviously when Juba scores, that's just straight after Lukaku's goal is disallowed, and you start thinking, oh no, this isn't going to happen, is it? But thankfully Belgium get the breakthrough, and Andreas Christensen scores an absolute screamer.
But the best part about Christensen is that there are 2 other chances in the build-up to it, and you always think when you're seeing these chances that are missed, you're like, oh, you know, that's that chance gone. Oh, that's that chance gone. And then it's like, no, it's not. Bang.
And as well, the way it comes to him, he has time to think about it, and he's a defender. He's not known for scoring many goals, but he's probably just thinking, right, just get through this. Make sure you just get a good strike, and what a strike it was. And that was it then. The expensive points were thrown up in the air. I looked at all those plastic glasses in Parken Stadium last night. They ain't cheap.
20 quid a pop, probably?
Copenhagen. Now, I don't know what the story is at this Euros, because obviously it's a multi-city.
Yeah, they can't have the same price for beer in every city, though.
No, but also, if you think back to the Euros in France.
No booze.
There was booze, but it was
alcohol-free.
It was essentially, it was alcohol-free. There was a little bit in it, like 0.05 or 0.5, so...
we can all agree that's alcohol-free. That's the equivalent of alcohol-free.
Look, do you know what? It served well for plenty of people that went in a bad way and came out of the stadium feeling a lot better. But yeah, no, it was great. And then obviously you saw the Danish players.
It's a good point, though. Hang on a second, because it's like you're paying stadium prices, which is already double, but then you're paying stadium prices in Denmark, so that's quadruple.
Yeah.
They could be 20 quid pints. I'm not joking, right?
No, look, Copenhagen is an expensive city, and from being there for the World Cup playoff, what I do remember was, obviously we know the association with Carlsberg and Denmark, but there was people. I saw one guy carry 2 trays, and you could fit 6 pints in each tray. He carried 2 trays to a seat. Now, he was with one other person. I was thinking, lads, that is going to be... Now, it was a cold night, but I thought that, like, those lads are going to be feeling them after the game. And in fairness, it was such a bad game, probably as well.
Dave, we were talking about the contenders earlier on. He thinks Portugal are about to go out.
Well, they're in trouble if they lose, because looking at the third place teams, they're going to... You'd imagine once there's a winner in tonight's game at Hampden Park, then Portugal will get bumped down a bit. So, yeah, the French are going to fancy their chances in that one.
And do France want to win the group now, or does everybody think, actually, you know what? I don't know.
It's hard to know, because of the, like, even we mentioned Belgium, we don't know who Belgium are going to play. There's only a few games we know. Obviously, we know that Denmark are going to play Wales, and Irish fans could do the dossier on that one for anyone. Like, obviously, we've played Wales a lot recently, we've played Denmark a lot recently, so we know pretty much everything about it. Belgium are waiting to play a team in Seville on Sunday. They don't know who it is.
Italy, Austria.
I watched Austria yesterday. Italy have absolutely nothing to fear in that one. Austria are not great. Obviously, Alaba is the bit of magic. Arnautovic started and just seems to strut around the place, kind of more focused on, you know, walking around, throwing shapes than actually playing the game. Now, he looked like he was struggling a bit at times. His fitness, maybe that game will stand to him, but yeah, I'd imagine Italy will be coasting into a quarter-final. And
are Portugal not going to batten down the hatches? Like, that's going to be a game where neither team really wants the ball for too long?
I think Portugal have a few decisions to make on what way they want to set up, because obviously midfield, he's got Danilo and Carvalho there, but he maybe needs something a bit fresher in there in terms of something a bit more dynamic in midfield, where I know Renato Sanchez has come on a few times, and look, this guy is, after winning the French league title with Lille, he's not the player that people associate with the little short spell at Swansea. He's a really good player. I wonder, will he change things? Bruno Fernandes looks absolutely shattered. Now, he still tries, and he'll try and press, but he just looks absolutely knackered. So they've got an abundance of attacking talent, but it's almost like he's afraid to make changes. And I mean, you can't really think like that going into a game that could be your last in the championship.
Yeah, okay, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Phil, what else is going on?
Well, obviously, just to kind of put a few numbers on what happened last night, obviously Denmark beating Russia 4-1 means Denmark got second in that group, in Group B, and Belgium finished top, 3 wins from 3, thanks to the 2-0 win over Finland. Finland are in third place, but it looks like they're not going to make it because, as I said, the 3 points looks like it might not be enough now. You'd want to have a good goal difference if you're going to finish in third place on 3 points. The Netherlands won 3-0 against North Macedonia at the top of their group. Gino Wijnaldum scored twice. He's actually scored 25 goals for the Dutch now, one more than Marco van Basten. Austria finished second in the group with the 1-0 win over Ukraine. It was Christoph Baumgartner that got the goal. He actually went off in the game as well. He got a knock to the head before he scored the goal and then went off not long after, and he had a nice pack on his head later on when the camera panned to him. Tonight, 2 games in Group D. Billy Gilmore will not be available for Scotland's must-win game against Croatia. He's isolating after testing positive for COVID-19. The Scots and Croatia know they have to win to have any chance of reaching the last 16. Kick-off at Hampden is 8 o'clock. And the knock-on effect from that Billy Gilmore positive test as well is that Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell, who spent about 25 minutes with him after the game in the tunnel, have been isolated. We're not sure now exactly what's going to happen there. They might actually be available for tonight, but it's unlikely that England are going to take that risk. Obviously, England are already guaranteed a place in the last 16. They play the Czech Republic at Wembley. St Pat's are top of the SSE Electricity Premier Division. They won 4-1 against Finn Harps last night. Ronan Coughlin scored twice. So the Saints moved ahead of Shamrock Rovers and goal difference. Rovers beaten 1-0 in the Dublin Derby at Dalymount Park by Bohemians. Georgie Kelly with the winning goal 11 minutes into the second half. So that win for Bohemians moves them just 7 points off top spot. They're up to 4th place, and certainly a team in form and starting to make grounds on the top of the table. Sligo Rovers remain 3rd. They drew 1-1 away to Derry City. Vinnie Perth got his first win after taking back over at Dundalk. Obviously drew his opening game at the weekend, but they beat local rivals Drogheda United 1-0. Waterford got their win as well. They beat Longford Town 2-1. And I know you're going to be talking about this shortly. Manchester City have started the race to sign Harry Kane, apparently. Reports suggest that the Premier League champions are set to launch a £100 million bid to sign the striker, but Spurs value him at £150 million.
Phil, good stuff. Thanks for that. More from Phil across the day on OTBSports.com. You can get it on the OTB Sports app, and of course you can hear him on Today FM as well. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Let's talk about Harry Kane, because it has been confirmed already that he will start tonight by Gareth Southgate. I'm delighted to say Martin Lipton is with us this morning again. Martin, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm very well.
So Southgate said that he would start Harry Kane, but then they were guaranteed qualification by last night's results. Does that in any way alter Southgate's thinking, or is he getting minutes into Kane to try and get the form and fitness and the gel back in that team?
I can't see any reason why it would change. He needs Kane to be firing. Kane's not been right the first 2 games, but for whatever reason, whether it be mentally or physically, something's been up. Normally with Kane, even when he's not right physically, he still scores goals. He gets involved enough in games to score, and he hasn't done that in the first 2, and he needs him to be the spearhead and the goal scorer to have that threat. So he wants to play him into form. There's no question of that, and it makes abundant sense to me.
There have been periods in Kane's career where he's been streaky, where there was a few games here and there where there were patches where he didn't score, but then he would emerge from that and go on incredible scoring runs. So that has to be Southgate's hope. Has there been any pattern to those streaks in the past that someone can pinpoint and say, I think this is what's going on here?
No, because he's rarely gone more than 3 or 4 games without a goal. So you can argue at the end of the season for Spurs, he didn't score that many, but he was playing better. The Leicester game, he scored and made one, and he was always involved and always a threat. So it's rare for him not to score. That's why he's got a record of, just under 2 goals every 3 games for Tottenham, over 200 games in the league. That's the quality that he possesses, and his England record is similar. He's got 34 goals in 55 games. Again, it's 2 every 3. So he's due one on that basis, isn't he?
Is there
Martin, it's not like, sorry, Ger, it's not like he's missing a huge amount of opportunities, though. England really aren't creating gilt-edged opportunities for Kane to spurn. Is your view that he's out of form, or that just the way that England are playing at the moment is making him look like a player who's struggling for form?
Well, he's not got any chances. That's a fact. But I just thought his movement looked slightly awry. He didn't seem to be playing with the same conviction I'm used to from him. Something seemed, just from an amateur perspective, but from a Spurs supporter who's seen him for a number of years perspective, he didn't look like himself. But that could be for a variety of reasons. I mean, no one's a robot. No one can be guaranteed to play well every match, and Kane's as human as the rest of us. You do feel that he needs better service, and there wasn't, it was one cross against the Croatians he nearly got at the end of, a cross from the right against Scotland that he's just a bit slow to get to. I think was overplayed as well. But it's not as if he's had, 10 chances to get on the end of. They haven't put the ball in the right place, and as a consequence, he's gone looking for the ball. Now, at times that's really useful because he can drop deep, turn and hit and hurt you, and he hasn't done that so far. But there needs to be better movement, more penetration, the ball getting in behind a little bit more, and they haven't done that enough.
When he does drop deep, there's obviously a Tottenham. So Heung-min Son is in advance of him. And there was some talk in the papers at the weekend that maybe Gareth Southgate needs to look at the possibility of playing both Kane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin together. And that if Kane does drop deeper, I mean, he was incredible in terms of goals, assists for Tottenham last season, that maybe that's the way to go. Play him deeper and play the equivalent of Heung-min Son and Dominic Calvert-Lewin ahead of him.
Well, isn't the equivalent of Son, Jadon Sancho more than Calvert-Lewin? Calvert-Lewin's an orthodox centre-forward, whereas Sancho is pace, can run in behind. We've seen him do that for Dortmund. I think it's an argument that you need to have better legs, but again, Sterling's not short of pace either. Rashford's not short of pace when he comes up. What the problem was, the runs weren't being made by anyone. As a consequence, he went, and the ball wasn't being provided in the right place, so he went looking. I think there's nothing wrong with the shape. The issue for me is that, do you really need two holding midfielders in a lot of games? Now, maybe Southgate's view is, well, when it really matters, we're going to. So therefore, why would we change it up when we can? It's about getting used to playing in a certain way for when we need to play in that way. And that's perfectly valid as an argument. And the other thing is, as we know, tournaments aren't necessarily won by the best attacking teams. They tend to be won, as 2016 and 2018 proved, by the best defensive teams.
Is that giving you confidence that actually Southgate's on the right path here? Because there's been a massive reaction by the England fans to the performances so far, and it seems like it's an overreaction because Scotland played really well, have a bunch of very, very good players, very clear identity in what they're trying to do, and it's a derby game. Sometimes those games end up taking on a life of their own. Also, England missed a gilt-edged opportunity very early in the game to score a goal that would have completely changed the complexion of it when Stones rattles the bar.
Yeah, and it should have been a penalty in the second half. Soft one, but it's a penalty in the Premier League any day of the week, isn't it, when Robertson clips Sterling's heels. England didn't play well. Scotland played as well as they can do and got a 0-0 draw. I think that probably sums up the difference between the two teams in truth. England have qualified with a game to spare. Scotland have got to beat Croatia. I think people do get over excited about performances and read too much into them. No, it wasn't good. Let's not pretend otherwise. It was a poor performance. They lacked impetus. They lacked penetration. They lacked thrust. They lacked conviction. Not in the top 10 of bad England performances that I've seen.
The two holding midfielders issue, is there just a betting in period for that as well? Is it possible that, so essentially Declan Rice is playing as a 6, is it possible that Phillips can play as a slightly more advanced player alongside him, or is that 2 6s that we're watching?
Well, it looks that way at the moment. You do need one of them to make a run occasionally, and Phillips made the couple of runs against Croatia was exactly what he needs to do. For me, they were just a bit too hesitant. They were worried. And also, the longer it went on against Scotland, the more it was like, OK, if we don't lose this, we're through. And that can breed inertia in players, that they become more conservative in their game plan. I would be surprised to see England play as poorly again. Doesn't mean they won't. Fuck you, it's England. But I would be surprised to see them play as poorly. I'd like to see a few changes, but it's not my call. I'd like to see Bellingham involved. I'd like to see Sancho involved, but I suspect that won't happen.
He doesn't seem to fancy Sancho at all.
Something's up with him. I don't know, but he's in the squad, so it may be something that Sancho has done. I don't know. Or he just doesn't see enough of him because he plays in Germany, and of course he's not been able to get out and see him because he hasn't been able to travel for 15 months.
The Grealish debate is obviously it's raging at the moment, and there's potential that the team has to change. Maybe if Mount is ruled out because of the Billy Gilmore COVID positive, very difficult to know exactly what's going to happen with that at the moment. But is there a case to stick Grealish in this team anyway?
I think there is, yes. But I don't think it's a tragedy if he doesn't play him, and it's not an outrage if he doesn't play him, because, you know, it's the manager's choice. And if you're talking about Foden and Sterling and Mount and Grealish, it's hard to get them all into one team. So someone's got to miss out. And he loves Mount, and I can see why. I thought in the first half on Friday, Mount was England's best player. I think Foden is a spectacularly good player who will always have a future for me for the next 10, 12 years for England. And Sterling has never let him down. He's scored 13 and 18. If you look at those things and take them into account, omitting Grealish and bringing him on for 20 minutes is hardly the crime of the century.
What's your view on how well Southgate's doing at the moment? Is he doing a good job?
Well, I don't see anyone can say he's doing a bad job. They've won all their World Cup qualifiers this year, including Poland. They've qualified with a game to spare in the Euros. They're not playing particularly well. One of the big concerns with England was, oh dear, we've got great attacking players, and defensively we're a mess. We're going to concede loads of goals, and Tyrone Mings isn't very good, and we haven't got much of a left back, and I don't fancy the goalkeeper. Well, they've kept 2 clean sheets so far, and Mings has been excellent, actually. And the keeper's made big saves when he's had to. Sometimes you just don't play particularly well. But if you do have a shape and a system and a way of playing that the players are happy with and comfortable with, and they're doing the basic job, which is getting through, it's hard to be critical.
Given that they're already through, do you take an opportunity to give some game time to Maguire and Henderson and make sure that those players are fit if they are required for later on in the tournament?
Henderson rather than Maguire. Maguire rather than Henderson for me. Not going to put anything against Henderson. It's just I don't think you need to be that mobile to play centre-half. You don't need to be that fit to play centre-half. It's easier. If you look back to 2004, the opening game, England played France, played really, really well, managed to contrive to lose it, having dominated for most of the match. And Ledley King played alongside Sol Campbell because John Terry was injured. John Terry was fit for the next game and came straight in because he was his best centre-half. No matter how well, and he has played well, Tyrone Mings has, Harry Maguire is a better player than Tyrone Mings. And for me, it makes abundant sense if he's fit enough to play to bring him back, particularly as he needs game time, having not played for a month, and because it's a game that in some respects doesn't matter too much in that they're already going through. I don't, you could get too clever, we want to play so-and-so. No, but they are going through. Whereas for Henderson, you need that mobility, and he's not played for more than 2 months, nearly 3 months. I'm not sure he's going to ever have that mobility in the tournament. I think he's almost there as much for his ability to knit the squad together as he is for what he can do on the pitch.
Okay.
Martin, what's your impression as a collective of how England are dealing with the pressure of what is essentially a home tournament? I think Raheem Sterling said the overreaction to the Scotland game was one that was just outside of the group, that internally they actually feel great about things, that they're happy enough with exactly where they are, that we've seen England teams buckle in the past when it comes to this stage of a major tournament with all the pressure that goes with trying to perform in an England shirt. Is this group different?
Well, we'll find out in the next couple of weeks, won't we? It's hard for me as an outsider to tell you what's going on inside the group. And to coin a phrase from Sterling, he would say that, wouldn't he? Nevertheless, I know that Southgate will be exuding calm rather than panic, as will Steve Holland, as will the likes of Maguire and Henderson, who aren't in the team at the moment. And half the time, as you know, it's psychological. It's what you've got between your ears as much as what you do with your feet that make the difference. You don't want to panic. You don't want nervousness. You need to stay calm and focused. And I'm sure Southgate will be reminding everyone that, Portugal won the last tournament, drawing 3 games in the group, including, a 3-3 against Hungary. if you get through, it doesn't matter.
And they are through. That's the thing.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously.
Exactly.
And we're waiting to see who the draw is going to be against. It could be particularly cruel and difficult, but actually, you know, if you're going to win a tournament, you're going to have to knock out some good teams, and being underdogs in the next round might not be the worst thing for a team, for this team.
Indeed, but we don't. It's far. It's no idea, because second in Group E could be Spain, or it could be Slovakia, or it could be Poland or Sweden, for that matter. I mean, second in Group F still could be any of four. It's more likely, I suspect, to be Germany, but it's not guaranteed to be them. So it's so many imponderables at the moment that you can't make any calculations based. It wasn't like 2018 where it actually made strategic sense for England to not beat Belgium in the last game of the group because the path was easier. There's no easy path in this because it's a 24-team tournament down to 16.
Yeah, and there are so many good teams all at a fairly similar level, with even one or two teams at the very top at the moment. The other big story in the back pages of all the newspapers today are suggesting that Pep has made Harry Kane his number one priority, and that City have already bid 100 million, or that the offer hasn't been made, but they've floated the idea. I don't know exactly how these things work, where it's like we all know that they're intending to bid, but the formal bid hasn't arrived. There's a semantics around it, I think, in some ways that probably are as interesting as the whole thing and the process itself. You've told us before you don't think Daniel Levy wants to sell to another English club. Does Levy's position change as Kane's position changes? What's the politics here at play?
Well, the bid has to be serious, and it has to be far more in advance of 100 million. He's not going to sell for that because he thinks he'll get that and more next summer in a more buoyant market. City is just trying to destabilise it. If anything, a bid like that is not too dissimilar in terms of the impact on the status of the so-called selling club as the Arsenal bid for Suarez a few years ago. It will make Daniel Levy more intransigent, not less, because City know what his valuation is, and if they don't go anywhere near it, he's not going to deal, and he's going to tell Harry Kane, "I'm sorry, you've got 3 years left on the contract. They're not making a serious bid. If they're making a serious bid, I'd listen, but it's not serious, so clearly you're not going anywhere."
Is there any way a deal could be done with 100 million cash plus a conglomeration of different players, or is it cash and cash only that Daniel Levy wants, do you think?
I don't know, but it'd have to be really good players. And do they want to go to Spurs? And can Spurs afford them? Spurs aren't going to want to add to their wage bill. And look at the sort of money that City players are on. Which players at City would they want? And also, they're getting discards. They're getting players that City don't want. So that's hard to sell. And the other thing which has queered the pitch enormously and makes it, for me, impossible at this juncture to see it happening early this summer, is that Spurs play City on the first game of the season. There's no way that Daniel Levy is going to want Harry Kane to come back on the first day of the season and score a hat-trick for City against Spurs. It's almost as if he's bunged a fixture plan as a few bob to make sure the deal doesn't happen.
Well, they also don't have a manager, Martin. Now, not that
if you fancy it, there's a vacancy. Just put your name in.
They've lost out in so many at this stage. My name might appear on the list at some stage over the next few weeks. But I know a Tottenham manager in recent times hasn't exactly been in charge of the transfer dealings, and he may help identify targets, but it's certainly not his call ultimately as to who they bring in. But there is nobody really there to say, well, actually, if you got the Kane money in, we could buy such and such.
Well, there is. It's Paratici. They've employed him as director of football.
But I'm just asking, is the absence of a manager playing a major role in this overall equation at all?
No, I don't think. No, it's not, actually. I mean, the absence of the manager is an embarrassment, as far as I'm concerned. It's ridiculous. And it shows the lack of planning and forethought on behalf of the club. There's no question of that. But the stance on Kane is not being altered by the absence of a manager. If anything, it makes it easier for Levy to stick to his guns. But I think Daniel Levy's position is, I'm not selling unless I'm given a deal that I can't say no to. And that probably, being realistic, begins with a 2. And no one's going to offer that in this market.
When do you think they will have a manager? Is there a potential that they're looking at somebody who's involved in the Euros and that's the get out of jail card? It's like, oh, we had to wait to the end of this because we wanted X manager?
Well, that's what they'll try and spin, I'm sure, but no one will believe it because it's been an unmitigated mess from start to finish. And nobody can say otherwise. And, you know, for all the attempts and efforts to deny that it's chaos, it sure looks like chaos. They don't seem to know from day to day who their targets are. And the type of manager they appear to be talking to changes with the wind. It makes utterly no sense whatsoever.
There is no consistency at all to the different candidates who've been linked or on the verge of signing.
No, I mean, you can't go from Pochettino to Conte to Fonseca to Gattuso in the space of 3 weeks and tell me there's consistent planning gone on. If it had been, as they were originally intended, I think, Nagelsmann, and then they'd ended up going back to Pochettino, you could see that. Even Ten Hag, you can see those being of a type. But it now appears to be, is there anyone we can get who's big enough for us to sell? Well, it may work, by the way. And it may be that that's not a terrible philosophy. There's a change of stance that Paratici has come in and said to Levy, hang on, what do we actually want now from our manager? And that makes it a good sense. And Conte, because of his success at many clubs, would have been a very good choice in the short term. But of course, with Antonio Conte, it's only ever in the short term, very short term. And in this case, like a couple of days, and he changed his mind. But if you ask me who they're going to have as manager, I simply couldn't tell you because I don't think they know.
Are England going to win tonight?
Should win tonight. Czechs are pretty happy they've qualified. They don't really need to win the group. England need to put in a performance. Last time Czechs came to Wembley, beat 5-0 and smashed them. And even the game they lost 2-1 in Prague, England went 1 up and should have won the game. They conceded 2 sloppy goals from corners. So, yeah, England should win, but not if they play that they did on Friday night.
Martin, great to have you with us. Thanks a million. Enjoy the game. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Martin Lipton giving us some thoughts there on the situation at Spurs and the England game tonight. If you've got thoughts on that game, or indeed England's performance so far in the Championship, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the number you can WhatsApp. Or, as ever, of course, you can also leave a comment in the YouTube stream or use the hashtag OTB AM. A packed show still to come. We're going to hear from both Greg O'Shea and Eve McCrystal, who are both heading to Tokyo. We're talking Denmark with Johnny Kokborg, and we're back after these with the sports pages.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
If you have a stallion and he goes to stud, there's a lot of hype about him. But if his first season goes badly, basically people write him off. And to kind of transpose that to football, how important is your first managerial job? Because if it doesn't go well, it's almost like, right, where do I go from here? So you kind of have to get it right. You've obviously you're smiling away, so you know what I'm alluding to anyway.
No, look, hopefully there'll be no Geldon. There'll be no Geldon.
Off the ball, Saturdays from 1 on OTB Sports Radio. Listen live on the OTB Sports app.
Car insurance is boring, but you don't have to be. Get Set Go is the kind of car insurance you can sort in a few minutes online, then bounce on with your day. Are you ready for Quick Start Insurance? Get a quote now at getsetgo.ie. MCL Insurance Services Ireland Limited, trading as getsetgo.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Why not check out the Boyle Sports betting app for a full range of markets on shots on target, assists, passes and more on every match of the Euros, all powered by Opta. Rated 4.5 stars on the App Store, you'll find all our latest odds and offers for the Euros. So remind us where to go, CVG.
Boyle Sports. This is betting.
18 plus, bet responsibly, gamblingcare.ie.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Invisible Threads, a Go Loud original.
As we celebrate the 6th anniversary of marriage equality, Invisible Threads meets older members of the LGBTQ community who reflect on their journeys and tell their stories. From shame and isolation to conversion therapy, from living with fear to coming out as an older person. Join me, James O'Hagan, for this powerful 8-part series, winner of the first Go Loud Podship.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
OTB AM, we'd love to, 15 minutes past 8 this morning here on OTB AM. We'd love to hear from you as ever. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Let's have a quick look at the homepage of OTBSports.com. From Tullamore to Tokyo, Jordan Conroy's Olympic Sevens dream. Jordan was on with the lads last night. Sam Bennett's team manager questions legitimacy of his knee injury. Unbelievable stuff from Sam Bennett's team manager. Mountain Chua forced to self-isolate after Gilmour positive. Hungarian foreign minister says Munich pride lights harmful and dangerous. Really Hungary playing the role of evil supervillain in the world at the moment. IRFU confirm attendance numbers for tests with Japan and USA. There will be fans in the stadium. I'm going to run you very quickly through the front pages of the sports sections. Harry Kane features in a lot of them for both on and off the field stuff. Blocking out the noise is the picture on the front of the Examiner. They also have the story about how Harrington helped the new US Open champion John Ram. That's also in the Mail this morning. The Fogarty Forum, the cursed advanced mark could spoil football summer. We'll get Dave's view on that in just a moment. England need to find fire and a little joy to do justice to the talent. That's the thing at the moment. It just doesn't feel as if they're actually playing to the level that we think they could do given the quality of footballers they have. Interesting story on the front wire of the Irish Independent this morning. You can't buy your way out of a conviction, Kerry stars told. A judge has told 2 Kerry footballers who attacked an innocent man as he walked home there is no open chequebook to buy your way out of a conviction. Ronan Buckley of Lahard, Beaufort, Kerry, and Christopher O'Donoghue of Foyledown, Clonkeen, Killarney were convicted of assaulting musician Dan McCarthy in October 2018. They both pleaded guilty and brought $5,000 to court in compensation, but the judge said after watching CCTV footage of the assault, it was too serious an incident not to record a conviction. So they do have a conviction recorded, but they're not going to jail. They've been fined. The judge said he would deal with the matter through the imposition of a fine, given the remorse of the 2 defendants, their determined efforts to compensate the victim, and their lack of any previous convictions. He fined the 2 defendants €400 each, but agreed to fix recognizance in case of an appeal. The musician who was assaulted said that his kids were terrified of going to him because of the damage that had been done to his face. His young daughter's reaction to his facial injuries hurt more than the assault. My 2 girls wouldn't come near me when they saw my face. That hurt me more than the blows the boys hit me. He's experienced problems with his nose. He said he would never forget the terror and helplessness he felt as he was subjected to blow after blow. It has changed my life. £400 each is what you got to pay when you beat somebody up like that. The front of the Telegraph this morning, Harry Kane, England camp rocked after COVID breach. Kane's the photograph. City launch £100 million bid for Kane. So Ben Chilwell and, sorry, I just momentarily forgotten. Mason Mount, of course, yeah. All the Chelsea lads hanging out after the game at the weekend. That €100 million bid is the back of the Guardian as well. Interesting to see exactly what happens. Martin Lipton says the number needs to start with a 2 if Daniel Levy's going to sell. England and Scotland plans in chaos after Gilmour positive. So, I don't know, maybe do England risk playing the 2 players? I'm not sure. The London Times, Scots cause COVID chaos for England. Scots cause COVID chaos for England. There's the headline. There's the front page picture, right? That's Billy Gilmour, right? And oh look, it's Mason Mount with his arm around Billy Gilmour. I don't see Billy Gilmour twisting Mason Mount's arm. I don't see him dry riding him. I don't see him licking him or swapping spit. Scots cause COVID chaos for England. Is this right, Dave? Is it Scotland's fault that the Chelsea lads can't obey the rules?
Blame it 100% on the jocks, Ger. You know, that's the easy route to go down this time, isn't it? It's a bizarre one. Look, that is the only publication that has gone in anywhere near that direction. I know the writer doesn't write the headlines, but it's a difficult one to get your head around. I don't think this is anybody's fault, really. It's incredibly unfortunate.
Well, I mean, everybody understands we've all had social distancing drilled into us. They're not in the same bubbles anymore. The England lads are in the England bubble. The Scotland lads are in the Scotland bubble. They don't know what Gilmore, where he could have got it or how he could have got it. I mean, it's certainly not Scotland's fault that England's plans have been plunged into chaos.
Well, look, I don't think it's anybody's fault. It's just one of those things. It's the COVID world right now.
Great Danes march on as Russia crash out, and Graham asks GA to hold fire on sin bin rule. So, Mickey Graham has asked Croke Park to suspend the penalty sin bin rule for this year's race for Sam Maguire. What do you... Well, we'll come back to that in a minute because we're talking GA. And the Star, it's a hugs game. England rocked as duo isolate and Levy Kane stays put. That's the headline in that one. Madness. England's preparation for Czech game in chaos after pair forced to isolate. Southgate's hopeful, qualified for last 16 after results last night. So it was actually swings and roundabouts from an England perspective. They're through. They can do whatever they want with team selection tonight. The Irish Sun, 100 million. City get the ball rolling, but Spurs will reject initial big cash offer. Is it a big cash offer? Is 100 million big for football these days? Hard to know. The Herald, City lined up 100 million Kane bid. I wanted to talk about John Fogarty's piece about the advanced mark. You obviously getting back into GA commentary mode this weekend, Dave. In talking to Tommy earlier, he was saying he was watching some of the games from, was it the 2013 All-Ireland semi-final when Dublin beat Kerry in that amazing game, that if there had been an advanced mark that day, it would have stopped the play, it would have slowed it down. Some brilliant scores that were affected that day wouldn't have happened. Somebody would have just taken the mark, taken their point, and the game would have generally evolved slowly into Aussie rules.
Yeah, Tommy posted a 23-minute highlight linked on YouTube to that semi-final. I think, was it yesterday or the day before? And I actually watched it last night just to remind myself of what an extraordinary game that was. I'd have to speak to Tommy specifically about a couple of the examples he's referring to, because the thing that struck me most was the freedom that Colin Cooper had at centre forward and the little bounce passes he was sending into the likes of James Donoghue and Donegal Walsh that led to the goal. So if the ball is obviously bounced before it's popped into the chest of the forward, I mean, the mark isn't an issue there.
I think he talked about, there was one point that that Gooch scored where he makes the catch and then has two dummy solos and kicks it. But he would have just taken the catch and kicked it over the bar, and we would have missed the dummy solos, and we would have missed the amazing bit of skill. Like, I still don't really understand what the point of the advance mark is.
Yeah, in examples like that, Tommy's absolutely spot on, and there are going to be examples of certainly lesser forwards. Part of me, maybe the romantic in me, believes that the likes of a Colin Cooper or a Conor Callaghan or a David Clifford will still play the ball and will still try the dummy solo, even that is certainly not the pragmatic approach to take. But everybody else is likely to just take the mark, put the hand in the air, and then just pop over the easy ball from 13, 14 yards out. You are going to lose some of it. I guess the thinking behind it was you want to reward high fielding within and around the goalmouth, and there were a couple of huge moments. I'm thinking of the Ulster final last year when Thomas Galligan pulled a brilliant ball. It wasn't even a high ball. He was almost falling over to his left under real pressure from a Donegal defender, and it was a huge score at the time in a huge moment of that game in the second half, and it helped Cavan on their way. And maybe in the mind's eye of the rules committee that were putting this in place, they have that sort of a delivery in their mind. The problem is, and it's the consequences of bringing any sort of a rule in, you maybe don't think of the knock-on effect. I consider the possibility of the ball being played 20 metres and it only goes a yard over the 45-metre line. It's a lateral ball. Now, why you would take the option of calling a mark there, I'm not quite sure, because no one's going to stick it over from their hand really from 45 metres. Well, maybe David Clifford might, but outside of him, who's going to do that? My overall point there is I don't see it generally, last year's championship in particular, it didn't have a material effect on the championship. I don't think the rule was required, and I think it needs to be looked at if or when it's brought up for discussion again. But I wouldn't be losing any sleep over it either. Well, now, the nightmare scenario that John Fogarty paints, sorry, Jerry, I keep cutting across you, is that the All-Ireland is decided by a little ball that's played 20 metres to within 20 metres inside the 45, and the play stops and someone kicks the ball over the bar, uncontested, unpressured, and therein is the result of the All-Ireland. That is a bit of a nightmare scenario for me.
I think a couple of things, right? If everybody thought this was coming in and was here forever, then very quickly you would see managers and coaches designing set plays that were aimed at getting shooters marks in a fixed area, and it would completely change the game. it feels a little bit like we're a little bit pregnant at the moment, where coaches and managers are like, if you can take the mark, but let's not program plays to specifically take account of the rule. Unless there is some team out there who is about to unfurl something in the championship this year, and we're about to see a smash and grab where somebody starts kicking 10, 12 points for marks. And it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that will happen. You would expect it won't because of COVID and restrictions and the lack of contact hours that people have had. So, but at the same time, I still can't understand what the point of it is. So somebody makes a great, like 2 or 3 times a year, somebody makes a great catch, and they ultimately find it difficult to lay that ball off, right? We need to save those people. And in so doing, we completely alter the way that the game can be played, where those dinked balls in, like if you've got somebody who is a good shooter but not particularly mobile, all of a sudden they can be worth 5 or 6 points a game if they're just doing shuttle runs in a D shape from 35 metres out. And there probably are plenty of people who can do that with no pressure on them. That's not a particularly amazing skill versus the 2 dummy solos from Gooch that are suddenly gone from the game.
It's an unlikely development, though. I mean, when is an attacking player winning the ball that close to goal without pressure on them? The ball has to be perfect as well. It can't bounce into their chest. It has to be pinged into their chest from outside the 45. You know, it has to go at least to 20 metres. I think there's a reason why in the last 12 months we've seen it happen so seldom, 2 or 3 times a game. I really don't see a team working on it to the point where it becomes a significant weapon over the course of the next 2 months. I'd be very surprised if that happened.
But it could become, you can see how the top quality coaches, like you're talking about a 25-metre kick pass being a very important weapon. And if, like, I don't know, is that the game we want? Stop, pause. And the other thing is that everybody's taking about 45 seconds over it, and they're toe tapping the ball and they're bouncing the ball, and it's like, that's completely legal. You're just not supposed to kick it. But everybody's taking, oh, it's a free kick now. I'm going to take this free kick. And I don't know, I just think that, like, what is the point of it? I don't really understand the massive benefit that we're getting from this particular rule change.
Well, Mickey Graham, he is the person you referenced there, questioning whether some of these rules need to be maintained going into the championship. He was talking about the sin bin, and there's other people talking about the advanced march on Fogarty, as you said, mentioning this morning. From a Mickey Graham's point of view, I don't think he should be in the papers discussing whether or not a certain rule should be binned, pardon the pun, from the sin binning point of view, for the championship. Like, Cavan have bigger problems at the moment than whether or not one of these new rules is going to remain in place for the championship. They are in a serious hole going into this game with Tyrone on Saturday week. I'm on the commentary for that for Sky, and a man with Cavan roots, I'm not looking forward to it. I think it could be a very grim day for Cavan unless they somehow manage to pull something out of the bag on the back of a relegation, as they have done in the previous 2 seasons. But overall, I think in an ideal world, if you were to reverse the clock, this mark would not have been brought in. But now that it's here, personally, I don't see a huge issue with it. But when it comes up for re-debate, I'd rather it was canned.
Yeah, on that note, Dave, good stuff. Thanks a million for being with us today. Cheers.
Thanks, Chair.
Dave McIntyre, you can, as you said, hear him again this weekend on commentary duty for Clare against Kerry on Sky on Saturday evening. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. A reminder, Off the Ball is going to be the home of the British and Irish Lions tour to South Africa. Full live commentary of all 9 matches. That's 8 in South Africa, and the big one this weekend, where it looks like there's going to be loads of Irish players getting an opportunity for some revenge against Japan. So including the 3 test matches, Brian O'Driscoll and Alan Quillen are going to be alongside Neil Tracy for commentary of the 3 tests. Devin Toner, Niamh Briggs, Jack Carty amongst some of the co-coms for the warm-up games. And our coverage starts this Saturday with full commentary of the Lions versus Japan from 3 o'clock with Neil Tracy and Andy Dunn on duty for that one. Greg O'Shea is going to join us after 9 o'clock this morning on OTB AM. First, though, let's hear from his Irish Rugby Sevens teammate, Jordan Conroy. Here he is in conversation with Joe on Monday's OTB, talking about his journey from Tullamore to Tokyo.
Jordan Conroy, Olympian. This has a nice ring to it. I like this. Jordan Conroy, Olympian. How's that sinking in?
I mean, it's just about kind of sinking in right now. Like, after 24 hours, just realizing what we've done. And I'm just kept thinking over and over that, you know, I am an Olympian. And it's just a crazy thought, because I remember watching the 2012 London Olympics when I was doing the athletics, and I just said, oh, if I really put my head down, I could be there. And then just fast forward another 8 years and I'm here playing rugby. So it's just a crazy journey, and it's unbelievable, lads. It's actually unbelievable. A small boy from Tullamore Town, just in the Olympics now. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, it's brilliant stuff. That is Jordan Conroy there. We'll be talking a little bit later on to Greg O'Shea after about 9 o'clock this morning. That podcast is available on our OTB Rugby channel. We're bringing that full chat with Jordan from 9:30 this morning after we catch up, as I said, with Greg O'Shea. Let's talk about the Olympics, though. I'm delighted to say Eve McCrystal is with us, who is a tandem pilot. Eve, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'd say you've had one eye, kind of, but definitely on all of the shenanigans going on in Japanese politics at the moment and the debates about whether or not it's going to happen. It looks now more likely than not that both the Olympics and the Paralympics will happen.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of didn't really tend to really listen too much because I found it was just too much. I was putting on the radio and I could hear kind of negative stuff about Tokyo, and I suppose I just had to focus on myself, and hopefully that it all worked out in the end. But I think we're nearly there. I think we've one step on the plane, so hopefully it'll go ahead.
So tell us what a tandem pilot is and how does that actually work? Because it's I think one of the joys of the Paralympics is everybody getting to understand exactly how each of the sports works and what everybody's role in the sport is. So you're a tandem pilot in cycling. What does that do? What do you do?
Yeah, so I suppose on one bike, there's two people on it. I'm the pilot, and Katie George Dunleavy is my stoker. That's her, I suppose, official name on the bike. And Katie is partially sighted, so she does have some sight, but she wouldn't be in a position to ride a bike on her own. So basically, she's at the back, I'm at the front, and I'm the eyes essentially on the bike. I have control of the gears, the braking, the decisions we make on the road. But when I say decisions, so does Katie. There's a big communication piece on the bike. So we definitely move as one unit. I would just be the eyes and, as I said, select the gears and the initial move in a road race, or, that kind of thing. But yeah, we're definitely a team.
And are you shouting at each other? Is it like over the wind, or is there? Have you reached the point now where it's kind of like just okay, let's go? I'm tapping on the shoulder. How does that work?
Yeah, no, we kind of, Katie would say, she knows by my body language. She would always say if my left shoulder dips, there's something happening or I'm under pressure. So she kind of knows by my body language at this stage. But if as I said, Katie does have some sight, so she will see a bike coming and she will nearly tell me before I see it. So yeah, but we kind of work well together. As you said, we've been together for years now. So we do know each other inside out when it comes to racing a bike, that's for sure.
Our colleague Cliona Foley wrote a great piece about that partnership a while back. I think it might have been 3 or 4 years ago, about you guys coming together. You were introduced, but you were complete strangers and just had to decide very quickly about whether or not this was going to work. How did that all come about? How did you end up volunteering to become a pilot?
Yeah, no, I didn't volunteer. It was a bit of a different process in that Katie was in London. Her pilot was Sandra Fitzgerald at the London Paralympics. And following that, Sandra stepped aside and there was a position there for the pilot. So Cycling Ireland were looking for a new pilot. At the time, the Irish National Championships were held in Carlingford. It was 2014. Sorry, I keep the years now. But I was bronze medal in the time trial, and following that result I was asked by Neil Delahaye, he's still our coach, would I try out for the position of pilot, and I was tested in the Institute of Sport and I got the seat.
Right.
After that then I think Katie has family in Swords. I was asked to be at Swords on a particular day, a particular time, and the tandem was there and hopped on the bike. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. There's a lot of roundabouts in Swords. Navigated them, and yeah, that's it. We're going to our second Paralympics, so it kind of went from there. But yeah, we got on very well from the start. Katie's very easy. I'd always say in interviews we're very different off the bike, different personality types completely. But we have, I suppose, the one vision, and we always did together, I suppose, was get that gold medal, and we're working hard to try and get one. It was difficult.
I'm sure, but it's a remarkable difference between being an individual athlete in such an individual sport as cycling is, to then going to being literally part of a team on the same bike.
Yeah, I found that transition, I find that easy. I have to be honest. I love the team aspect of it. Cycling as a solo rider, you know, it's a lonely sport, I suppose, if you're training on your own, unless you're going out with a group of people. But, you know, I train on my own a lot because of the children. I'm not always able to go out with a group of cyclists on their timeline. I have to go on my own. So I think when I got with Katie, I just enjoyed the team aspect of it. I enjoyed being part of the high performance team and the other guys on the team. Yeah, so it wasn't, I didn't find that difficult at all. You know, I love going on training camps, and it's just a great buzz about it. And yeah, I enjoy it. I think if I had been maybe 20 years younger getting into cycling, my goal might have been a domestique in the pro ranks. Maybe that would have been an ideal job for me, but I didn't start till I was in my late 30s. So yeah, I wish I had known about it earlier, I think.
Well, that's a pretty remarkable bit of detail. What got you into cycling in your late 30s?
Well, actually, yeah, in those early 30s, I did triathlons. So I competed in, well, I wouldn't say compete, I took part in 2 Ironman events in between. I had 2 children. So it was a busy few years, but I think when my second daughter was born, I didn't have the time for 3 disciplines. And I was always stronger on the bike. So I said, look, the swim and running is going to have to go. So I stayed on the bike, and that was it. Yeah, but I was just late coming to it, you know.
Were you competitive as a kid, like, you know, in your teens? Were you a cyclist at that stage?
No, never. I didn't. I was able to ride a bike, I suppose, like most people, but no, didn't even know it existed. Didn't know. Triathlon was my first introduction into cycling with a local club, Satanta Triathlon Club here in Cullen, cycling club in Dundalk. But no, I had no idea it happened. There was always track and field. My brother is like an amazing footballer, so you're always kind of, you know, in his shadow a bit, and he was crazy sports guy. So, but I always enjoyed the fun part of sport. I was never any good at track and field. You know, I was always kind of last and looking forward to the sandwiches that Mum took in the picnic with my friends. But no, I never really had that, I suppose, competitive edge. I just really enjoyed it, you know. So that was it, yeah.
There was obviously some kind of awakening, though, when someone started to talk about high performance, when the Ironman led you to a level of fitness that you were like, actually, hang on a second, I can do this and I can continue to get better at it.
Yeah, I think after the Ironman, my second Ironman, I did quite well. I feel I did quite a good Ironman. I had a great bike split. I kind of said, geez, maybe I'm good on this bike. And I think being asked by Neil to even try and be selected for the pilot, it gave me a confidence, I think, in myself. Jesus, maybe if somebody must have seen something there. So I'll go with it. And then when I did get tested, my results were pretty good. So then I said, I suppose, like, all of that together, then I was like, oh, maybe I can do it. And it just completely changed my life around. It was like complete 360. Like, my job is I'm a member of An Garda Síochána. So like, it was a complete roller coaster of, I don't know, everything changed. I had 2 babies. I was working as a guard. This was, you know, given to me to maybe try and do something with it. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just said, I'll go for it and see what happens. And I don't have one regret. I love it. I absolutely love what I do. I really enjoy it.
So how did you get on in Rio?
Good. Rio was really good. We got gold in the time trial. Did not expect that. We had no idea. I was never at the Paralympics before. Katie had 5th and 7th place in London. So yeah, it was really unexpected. And that was our driving force, I think, for Tokyo then. That's kind of, it was like another kind of light. It was like, Jesus, okay, we do have something here. We're after winning. We just put a really good ride. And then we got silver in the road race. That wasn't expected either. So yeah, and then we just kind of came back, and I never had any intentions of going to Tokyo. It was never in my plan, ever. And 5 years later, I'm still here. So, yeah, sport is not a linear line. You know, there's a lot of ups and downs and twists and turns and just things you don't expect. But, yeah, we're still... I'm older as well, you know, so that's always in the back of my mind, you know. But yeah, Rio was good, and it definitely made us push on for Tokyo.
And in terms of the level that you're at the moment versus the level you were at pre-Rio, is the performance that you're putting in at the moment as good as it was then?
Oh, we're better athletes than Rio, yeah. Oh, yeah, moved on big time. We've just trained so hard. I suppose we've had a longer period of time. We've been together now 7 years, 7 years maybe. So look, we've all of that endurance built. You learn so much more about yourself every year. Even every race, you learn new things. You know, you never stop learning. We're better athletes. We're more focused. We know what works. We've great support in the institute with nutrition and psych and physio and everything. There's a great team around us. And I suppose we just use all of those people and try and get the best out of ourselves. But we're definitely better athletes since Rio, yeah, that's for sure.
So take that part of it, right? Then also take the fact that you've got the medals banked. Does that bring an enjoyment, an excitement and a pressure? What's that ratio of enjoyment and anticipation that you have versus a little bit of, ooh, there's a bit of pressure here, we've got to make sure that we actually manage to deliver this time? How do you...
Yeah, right, I don't really feel that pressure. So much has gone on, I think, in my life outside of sport that I kind of use sport as, therapy, I suppose, for myself. And so if I'm in sport and I feel pressure to win, I wouldn't be in it, I don't think, for the right reasons. If the enjoyment is taken out of it for me, why am I there? We went in, we had the World Championships last weekend. We went in as 4-time world champs. On the time trial, we were second. I didn't, you know, after that, I was like, right, they were second. Katie was disappointed. I was disappointed, but I got over it the following day. You know, that's, you know, you move on. You move on from it. And sorry, man at the door.
No worries.
You just move on from it. And I learn from the mistakes. I take full responsibility. I don't think I handled the bike very well. There was 47 corners. I haven't raced in 2 years. So, yeah, we discuss after it, and I don't feel pressure to get that gold in Tokyo. I don't know why. Maybe I should feel a bit of pressure.
No, it's really interesting because, like, so were you always like this? Or is this because you came late to the sports? Like,
this I would have felt more pressure in Rio. As I said, I suppose I lost my father in 2017, and after that things changed. So I didn't, sport, as I said, is enjoyment. I work as hard as I can to get the most out of myself. And if a medal comes on the back of that, that's amazing. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Life moves on. You know, it's only sport at the end of the day. It has given me, I can step away from the guards for a couple of years. I'm on a career break to leave my children to school, collect them, make dinner. So I'm in a very privileged position. You know, sport has given me that. So that's why it's like, I don't feel pressure then, I think, because I know I've done all I can.
Yeah.
I'm going to line up at the start line full of confidence, knowing I've ticked every single box to be in the best possible shape as I can be to be here. Katie has done exactly the same. I have full confidence that she's there in the best possible shape because our coach has us there to race and to win. But if something happens, and I can't control that. So I can only control what I can control, and that is to get there in the best shape that I can. And if the medal comes in the back of that, that's amazing.
The conviction that you've done everything you possibly can, it brings calmness.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm nervous. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be nervous, but
the excitement.
It won't be a nervous. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, nervously excited, I suppose. Yeah.
And
but
so
it's not a pressure.
Look, it's a remarkable story, and I think people will really rally behind everything you've talked about this morning. I think it's also really interesting when people discover things that were latent in them, late in life, and then manage to deliver on their potential in the way that you have. I think again it's a real lesson to people, like, to go for whatever is available to them whenever something is available to them, and not think, look, it's too late, or that's passed me by, or my chance was when I was 10 years younger or 20 years younger.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not, I'm 43 now next month, and my numbers, I'm still getting better. I don't know how much better I'll get, but like there's still, I'm still hitting numbers that I haven't hit, 12 months ago, so I haven't slowed down. So I was just supposed to encourage anybody to just go for it, and I try and instill that in the kids. Just go for it. You don't know what's going to happen, and yeah, I think we're never too late to try anything, really, are we?
And to enjoy the journey on the way.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. I really enjoy it. I enjoy what I do.
And I guess the other thing is that in all sports careers, Father Time is undefeated is the cliche. Like, you do know that there's a limited amount of times that you're going to be able to do this at this level. Does that bring some clarity and joy, or is there a sadness around that?
No, it's like, I was like, I suppose after this, like I'm saying to Kate, I'm not going to Paris, don't ask me, I'm not going. So we'll just make that, clear. But like I'm still saying, I could do another Ironman, because that's like longer and slower. So I always have these, I've other things in my head that I'd like to do. So sport will always be part of my life, because I suppose it's definitely the best medicine, the best happiness. I really enjoy it. So I'm not just going to, hang up my cycling shoes. I'll definitely get back into the pool and try and shuffle my way around a run. I'll find something else.
I've got to ask you, you talked about your brother, and the lads were digging. So was he on the book at Leeds? Is that right? Have we got the right? Brian?
Yes, yeah, he was. Yeah, so I had to live up to that all my life. Do you know how hard that was?
I'd say pretty hard.
And then he's a record, or the Irish record holder for Ironman. Yeah, so I think he's pretty amazing, but he's a great sportsman, yeah. So he was with Leeds for years, yeah.
And how many Olympic gold medals does he have?
Oh no, he doesn't have any of those.
Well, there you go. You're I think it's there's swings and roundabouts here, but I'm interested, like, when he was a kid, obviously there was far more very clear pathways for him to use his clear genetic talents.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if it had been the same for you when you were 12 to 15, and if someone had recognised your talent as a cyclist at that point, or do you think things are different now? I guess everything always comes back to the 20 by 20 campaign, and how we just need to make sure that whatever gains were made in that are actually filtering down for various people. Like, because look, participation is the single most important thing, and having fun after that. But there's also probably some elite athletes who we're missing out on.
Oh, absolutely. And as you said, the 2020 campaign is massive. Like, visibility is key. And if cycling had been there when I was younger, yes, I might have tried it. Like, as well as being a brilliant footballer, Brian is an unbelievable cyclist. So it must be in the genes. So if it had been there when we were, 15, 16, and we tried it, like, God knows where we would have been. And I started a race on Sunday, the first race of the National Road Series in Limerick, and Sunday was there, and I saw loads of new faces, faces that I haven't seen before. And like, that's brilliant. And I do think it comes, as you said, with the 2020 campaign, the visibility is key, and to put cycling out there for people to see and try it, because you don't know what talent is there, So, it's good.
Triathlon is the gateway drug as well for loads of people into stuff.
Oh yeah, like triathlon's massive, isn't it, really? And they're just, it's huge. The clubs around the country are just growing and growing, and especially for women in sport, is to just take it in and try, and don't be afraid, and don't let things put you off. And I think that there's a big fear element for women. I think Cycling Ireland run the Bike Like Me, or the Ran the Bike Like Me programme during COVID, and I did them in my training room on a Monday night. You know, I had an hour of indoor bike sessions, and I think the first block was 800 women registered.
Wow.
You know, in all different parts of the country. It was huge, you know, and them women are there for enjoyment. Some of them want to race, some of them just want to go for coffee on the bike to meet their friends, and there's so many different aspects of cycling, you know. So yeah, visibility is definitely key.
Well, listen, you're a brilliant ambassador for it, and we wish you the very best of luck. Loads of comments coming in. What a woman, best of luck in Tokyo, says Hugo. Paul O'Connor says, what an inspiration, best of luck. Yeah, even Katie. We're counting down now in weeks as opposed to months before you're actually getting on the plane. So what happens now in the meantime? Do you have any final races? Do you taper down? Are you in the midst of a quite hardcore training session at the moment? How's that working?
No, we're going to Mallorca on Sunday, this Sunday coming for a training camp, 2.5 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. I hate being away from the kids, but I'm going. And it's 2.5 weeks, so that'll be intense. And then we're home for 2 weeks, and then we're away. We've a holding camp before we head into Tokyo. So no, it's pretty intense, I suppose, from now in. And that makes it fly by, I think, as well. You know, you're just ticking off each day and trying to recover as best you can. But unfortunately for Irish athletes, we have to go to Mallorca to train because we don't have a velodrome in this country. So yesterday, actually, myself and Katie went to Sundrive, our outdoor velodrome. It's the first time we've been in anything like that in 18 months. So I said before, it's like the swimmers have been expected to swim and with no swimming pool. So hopefully we'll get a velodrome soon. But we don't have one, and we have to go to Mallorca to train. So that's where we're going next week. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, enjoy the trip. I'm sure your kids, like the rest of the country, are very proud. Eve, thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
That was brilliant. That's Eve McCrystal there talking to us about the cycling in the Paralympics, and obviously we'll be keeping a very close eye on that as things move between now and then. A reminder, OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Johnny Kokborg joins us next on OTB AM from Copenhagen to talk about Denmark's dramatic win against Russia last night. First, here's Rob Daly speaking on the football show about Germany's Euro 2020. Here he is on Thomas Müller's role in the side.
He evolved into more of a creator than a goal scorer. So whether the perception was he was on the decline, maybe that was the case, but he's come back and he had to be picked. Those assist statistics undoubtedly helped by the fact he plays with Robert Lewandowski, who can put away any kind of chance, but those two link up beautifully at Bayern. But he's also a leader in the group. Yes, it looks like he's definitely missing the Hungary game, I think, and his knee injury means he may miss a round of 16 encounter as well, should they get through that group of death. But he's a personality like no other. And more you speak to international players, especially when you're away for that length of time. You know, especially with the friendlies, you're away with a group for 6, 7, 8 weeks if you go all the way. You need personalities. You need guys who are going to lift you when you're feeling on a bit of an off day. And Thomas Müller is that guy. You might well be aware of his nickname, Joe, that his nickname is Radio Müller because he's always on air, always talking. During training, during matches, he's always in the ears of his teammates, even when they're playing darts at the training ground. He's the one who picks up a megaphone and commentates on the darts for all the other players. He just basically doesn't shut up. And I think Jürgen Löw has loved having him back in the team. I think there was a climb down as well, wasn't there? Let's face it. You say, I'm going to bin off 3 of Germany's truly iconic players in Boateng, Hummels and Müller. It's a big statement. It annoyed Bayern. At the time, it was a massive call. But ultimately, like we've seen with Deschamps and Benzema and Rabiot, sometimes you need to just say, maybe I got that wrong. I need to bring them back in. And despite the fact he might miss the next 2 games, he's been a key member of that squad.
Yeah, Rob Daly there speaking on the football show last night. You can get that on podcast. Just subscribe to the OTB football stream and you'll be able to get it. Now, I'm delighted to say Johnny Kokborg, sports journalist with BT Sport based in Copenhagen, is with us. Johnny, good morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
I'd say a lot of sore heads in Denmark this morning.
Yeah, I think you're completely right about that.
How late was the night? How late were the celebrations?
Well, I actually saw a couple of fans staggering home when I was heading to work a couple of hours ago. So I think the Danish fans had an excellent night.
We've been debating the whole time since Michel Platini dreamed up the crazy idea of having European championships spread out over Europe and loads of home teams. For you guys, the games being in Copenhagen, given everything that's happened, it's been a remarkable sequence. I can't imagine what that would have been like anywhere else in the world. So what was it actually like for the city and for the country to have these matches at home?
I think it meant everything for Denmark and Copenhagen as well. We can kind of speculate if the Danish team would have been able to get past the tragic situation with Eriksen, which happily got a happy ending in some way. If there wasn't that great crowd with mostly Danish fans, and of course the first games had 15,000 spectators, but the Belgium and Russia game we had 25,000, and it was almost like a max capacity crowd. I think the whole experience for Copenhagen and Denmark after a pandemic, which of course has hit the whole world, but Denmark also been part of that, and it was just a great moment after 15-16 months of isolation and no partying, no social life. It was a great moment for Danish football and the Danish people in general to have the Euros in Copenhagen.
So the last few days, we spoke to you 2 days, I think, after the first game when Christian Eriksen was still in hospital. Since then, obviously, the team played quite well against one of the best teams in the competition and didn't get a result. And so it looked like more than likely they were going out. But there was still a glimmer of hope. They needed to put in an incredible performance. So what have the last few days been like in the build-up to the game with Christian Eriksen getting out of hospital and then also the game itself?
I think the Belgium game was, of course, the first game after the situation with Eriksen. So that was a game where nobody kind of knew what the situation would be with the team, where they were mentally. Of course, everyone saw they showed great character, played a great game, but they didn't get the result. So the days after that, I think there was a lot of pride in the Danish population about in the team as well. But it was also a possibility to start focusing on the sporting side of matters, because we know Christian Eriksen is alive and well, and that gave players have said that again and again, that it gave them some. You can say a hope for the future game against Russia. So I think they kind of were able to shift the focus on football solely, and they just showed great mentality in the game against Russia. But first 20 minutes was a little bit nervous, and I think the days leading up to it, we were speculating in the media, where is the team now? Because it was the first moment they could actually focus on playing the Euros at home. It was like a normal game, of course, regarding the situation with Eriksen. It was the first game where everything was a bit back to normal. So that was a bit of the media ahead of the game. But of course, they showed great character against Russia and really showed that there is a lot of quality in the team. A lot of focus has, of course, been that they had to get back after the Eriksen situation, and they showed character, but now they actually showed that they can play a whole game and win, and that was very important.
The relationship that the Danish football public had with the previous manager, Aga Heirede, when we would play against you guys, there was always a kind of sense of tension that the team was a bit more conservative than they needed to be. What is the relationship that the current manager has with the team and the talented players that you guys have?
I think it's the relationship between Kasper Hjulmand and the Danish fans and population in general has just exploded. He is on everybody's lips. He has been a real good communicator. He has shown great leadership and has really resonated with the Danes. Åge Hareide, we have to give him credit that he qualified the team for the Euros, and he he started this wave of a bit of positivity around the Danish national team, because we have to be honest, for a lot of years, the Danish national team were a bit of a joke in the last days of Morten Olsen's time as a manager. So we got back on track with the results, and of course, as you said, it was a little more conservative. It was really focused on getting the results, and we got to the World Cup in Russia, and we got to Euros here in Copenhagen, and there was a shift now in the playing style, and there was a lot more young players. That's of course why the Danish Federation took Kasper Hjulmand. And after the Eriksson situation, Kasper Hjulmand has just shown such great leadership that the Danish fans absolutely love him. And when you back that up with results, as yesterday, I think his stock is just exploding in Denmark at the moment.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, the team must have a lot of confidence. They're playing Wales in the next round. It's not one of the European superpowers. Wales have some very good players, and they played well in tournaments recently, but at the same time, you know them quite well from qualifying as well, and presumably don't have anything to fear against the Welsh.
No, I think they have real momentum now. The whole mental struggle they were through, they can use that as fuel. There's a real sense of hope. The team is playing well. There's a lot of talent in the team, and the Danes must regard themselves as favourites against Wales. A very Danish thing is to look forward to the next game, and especially here in the media, we're already looking at how is it going to look in the quarterfinals? Can we make the semifinals? And that's just an example of the hope that is in the Danish football community in the moment, because we must be honest and say that the Wales is a very good team with good players, but I think at the moment the Danish team is better, and they should get the win.
Right, so you're feeling pretty confident. That's good to hear, because the performance against Russia was sensational. Was that performance something that you had seen before? Is that the team playing the way the manager wants them? I mean, obviously they want to score 4 goals and only concede 1 against a team in the Euros, but what I mean is the style and the tactical fluidity. Was that how this team is supposed to play, and have you seen them play like that recently?
We've seen glimpses of it. We've seen potential with Kasper Hjulmand's style of play, the way he wants the team to be in formation. He's a very fluent coach who has no fear in putting a 20-year-old to Mikkel Damsgaard to replace Christian Eriksen and believe in that. But the game against Russia was the first time where it all came to a higher level, because we had the hope and the idea that there is potential in this team. We heard it over and over again from Kasper Hjulmand, from all the experts, because we have some good players playing in some really good leagues, and they're not just role players. They are rotation players. They actually play a great role in their respective teams. So we had a feeling that there might be something special here. So the game against Russia was the first time, I think, with this national team that we kind of saw it came through on the pitch.
They're playing 3-4-3, is that right?
Yeah, it could be 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. It's a bit of a fluent style that Kasper Hjulmand is practicing, and I think he can. I won't be surprised if he also goes back to maybe four defenders, because he believes in the team and is not afraid to try different things.
The game against Wales will be, I think, in the Amsterdam Arena. Is that correct?
Yes, it will be in the Amsterdam Arena. At the moment, there's a bit of confusion regards to the Danish fans, if they can enter Holland at all. But hopefully there can be some Danish fans in Amsterdam Arena. But it's still something we have to wait and see.
I was going to ask, what is the protocol at the moment? Do you guys all need PCR tests to get into somewhere like the Netherlands?
Yeah, I think there's a little confusion. We're trying to figure it out at the moment because I think there was a health minister who said that both Wales and Danish fans might not be able to enter because there is a requirement of 10 days isolation, but maybe the fans can get some kind of dispensation. But that's a bit unclear at the moment. But I really hope for both the Welsh and Danish fans that they will be able to travel to Amsterdam.
And are there many Danes living already in Holland that might be able to go to the game and pack out the stadium and make it a bit like a home match?
I don't. Probably are some Danes in Holland, but I have no knowledge of like a big congregation in Amsterdam. But I think the Dutch are a possible opponent in the quarterfinals for Wales and Denmark. So maybe they will cheer on both sides, hopefully.
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly which side they're going to be up for. Johnny, it's been an amazing story. How is the country feeling after everything that's gone on?
Well, I think there's just a football fever at the moment. Last night was crazy when I was at Parken and bicycling home. There was a party going on everywhere. I haven't seen anything like it with the national team in years. It was there was footage and videos from crazy party in the city center, and I think after all, that was what we wanted to happen. Of course, nobody could foresee what would happen with Christian Eriksen in the game against Finland. And I think after that, the feeling was that if they just can play the last two games and get through somehow, it would be a victory. But now they're actually through to the round of 16. And I just think the party's just started and all the Danes are ready to show up.
Nobody wants to play them. That's the other thing. Like at this point, nobody's thinking, yeah, I really fancy playing against Denmark.
No, I don't think anyone wants to beat them and be the baddies of the Euros at the moment.
Johnny, great stuff. Congratulations. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Johnny Kokborg there from BT Sport in Denmark. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. It is 9:06 here on OTB AM. Here's what we've got on OTB Sports Radio for you today between now and 7 o'clock when the show is live. The Euro 2020 show with Shane Hannon is live from 11 o'clock. We've got OTB Gold at 1. It is Keith Andrews meets Philly McMahon. At 3 o'clock is Dadcast. It's a Paul O'Connell special. If you missed it last week, it's also released in the OTB Rugby podcast feed today. Our Legends interview is Ronnie Whelan at 4 o'clock. OTB Gold at 6 is Cora Staunton. And then 7 o'clock tonight live with reaction and analysis and preview of the England group from 7 o'clock with Joe and the rest of the team. Plenty of rugby up next this morning on OTB AM. Former Love Ireland contestant and Irish Rugby 7-star Greg O'Shea joins us next to talk about the Irish team qualifying for Tokyo.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Well, Conte took part of the Euro. If Italy win the Euros and Immobile's top goal scorer, I'll sing the entire song for you in Italian.
Hey!
Myself and Immobile on top, over my shoulder.
Oh, perfect.
Those guys are looking at him with big eyes and almost like if he was a god almost. So I think the fact that he came back has certainly brought something very different to that squad in a very positive way, which I think can help the team now go in and win this tournament.
For the best Euro 2020 coverage, download the OTB Sports app and subscribe to the OTB Football Podcast.
First up, a Go Loud original from News Talk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
Why not check out the Boyle Sports Betting app for the latest betting and stats on every player and team with the Boyle Sports Euro Stats Centre. Rated 4.5 stars on the App Store, you'll find all our latest odds and offers for the Euros. So remind us where to go, Stevie G.
Boyle Sports. This is betting.
18 plus, bet responsibly, gamblingcare.ie.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Right, it's 8 minutes past 9 this morning here on OTB AM. We'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number if you want to get in touch with us. Or, of course, you can use the hashtag OTBAM. We're going to talk rugby with Greg O'Shea. The Sevens team qualified for the Olympics in Tokyo as well. It's the first time that we've had a team qualify for the Olympics. And it's a real feather in the cap of that Sevens team who were at the bottom tier of European Sevens rugby just 6 years ago. So an incredible achievement for them, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. In the meantime, Tommy Rooney is with us. Tommy, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger. How are things?
As a lanky, aggressive full forward, you must be totally in favour of the advanced mark, right?
I would have said so, Ger, because I am lanky and I would be moderately aggressive. I haven't got pace, so I tend to use a bit of physicality to try and get any bit of an edge when I'm playing football. I would have thought the mark would have suited me down to the ground, but I'll be honest with you, it's actually a very tough rule or a tough skill to pull off when you're in the full forward line and there's a full back hanging off you. I've been caught a good few times in an intermediate championship last year, or even in league matches, where you'd feel the ball. So a ball's coming towards you, it's been sent in, and you're obviously thinking about catching it, you're thinking about timing it, you're looking around where your teammates are. And when you catch the ball, you have to throw your hand up. And it's actually just not a natural movement to make, to throw your hand up when you've caught a ball, because you want to know, should you lay it off to somebody in a better position? Should you turn and swing it over the bar? So I've actually probably fouled the ball more than I've actually scored a mark from 1-on-1, like, or I've not necessarily fouled it, like, but I found it a couple of times last year that it's very easy for defenders to actually give your arm a tug. Do you know, a lot of referees, some referees will use their linesmen and their umpires.
They tug your arm so you can't call the mark.
Oh, 100%. It's so easy for defenders to do that, like, and fair play to them. But it's actually, it's a difficult rule. It's not perfect. There could be some sort of a mark that would work, that would reward high fielding when there isn't a score on or something, maybe inside in the 21.
Well, maybe you make it. Well, do you make it then that inside the 21 you're allowed to do this, and
possibly,
but as opposed to, because there's going to be a lot of balls chipped 25 metres to players who, I mean, Dave was saying earlier on he doesn't think that many teams have players who are going to be kicking it out of their hands over the 40, but uncontested, I think there's going to be plenty.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually think that in a way Gaelic football has fixed itself. It's kind of come full circle. This week on the Football Pod we'll be talking about sweepers and what you can do to kind of make a sweeper's role defunct. I think a lot of teams have figured out the sweeper in the last couple of years. We're seeing teams play a lot more direct now. So, like, I think they probably had good intentions when they brought in the mark, but it's just when you're watching, I mentioned to you this morning, when you're watching back to 2013 All-Ireland semi-finals, it's one of the things we're talking about this week, that special Dublin-Kerry game in 2013, and even the Tyrone-Mayo game that year in the other semi-final. If you watch it with today's hat on, you're thinking, oh, imagine they took a mark there. The game just it's not as good a spectacle. So, I actually think the best players generally won't take a mark unless they really need to. Like we saw it in Dublin's first league game this year. Davy Byrne took a mark in around the 45, and he tried to score it with his bad foot. I don't know what was going on there. Most teams won't take a mark unless a shooter's on the ball and they're going to put it over the bar. So, I just think it's a rule that just needs to be phased out. And maybe, look, I don't know if they're going to bring it back in. I was definitely interested in it in the start, but yeah, not a fan of it. After I saw how it's implemented and it failed to work in my favour on the pitch last year, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Okay, this rule was great when I thought it was going to work for me, but now I've changed my mind. All right, fair enough. Tommy, good stuff. That's Tommy Rooney, 1/3 of the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, which will be available for download today on the OTB Sports app. That's the first place that you'll get it. It's there first. You'll get it everywhere else a little bit later on, but the best place and the first place to get it is on the OTB Sports app, which is free. You can get it for nothing in either of the app stores. Now, let's go back to the Ireland Sevens team who've qualified for the Olympics with a sensational win against France, and I'm delighted to say Greg O'Shea is with us. Greg, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Congratulations. This is a remarkable story, particularly your comeback. It's Lazarus-like.
Oh man, it's ridiculous. Like, it still hasn't even sank in 2 days later. I'm so proud of the boys, and it's great for Irish rugby in general and Irish sport.
You, at one stage, weren't a part of this team. You'd gone away from it, and then when you tried to get back in, you didn't get back in, and then at the last minute, you got back in, and then straight away back into the team. From your own perspective, Were there stages along the way where you thought, my dream, my part in this is gone?
Yeah, so everyone kind of has their own individual story of how much they've sacrificed for this team, and my one's a bit weirder because I obviously did the whole Love Island thing, and I could have gone and done the celebrity life in London and moved to the UK, but I to use the Love Island phrase, I put all my eggs in the Irish Sevens basket, and I was like, no, I'm coming home. I put so much work in with the lads. I really want to go to the Olympics. I can't give up on that dream. So I came back, and for the last 2 years, I've been training with the boys for the tournament that was on last weekend. But the thing was, I wasn't actually picked for the squad initially because I picked up a few knocks along the way, like hamstrings, groins, calves, and if you don't train you can't play, and it's just the way it was. But it was very embarrassing for me not being picked for something that I've been telling everyone for 2 years that I was going to do. The way sport plays out, one of the boys, Gavin Mullen, unfortunately picked up a knock. I got the late call Sunday night to fly to Monaco the next morning, and I ended up starting most of the games and playing all the minutes in the final. It's just incredible.
So when you didn't get the call because of the injuries, how low was that?
Oh man, like I remember I was actually embarrassed to tell my family, like my own dad. I remember he'd text me and he's saying, "Oh, best of luck for selection. It's out tomorrow." But I already knew that I wasn't picked, and I did have the heart to tell him, like, because there's so much gone into this, and he's so emotionally invested, and everything I've been doing is just for this team, because you have to commit that much for the Olympic sports, like to try and get there. And the fact I hadn't been picked, it was my dreams just gone. And look, the world is weird and sport is weird, and it just worked out in my favour, thank God.
How long was the period between you being told that you weren't in and the injury happening to one of your teammates?
I got told on the Thursday I wasn't in, and then I was then rang on Sunday evening.
Right.
Gavin Mullen, he's an unbelievable player, but he needed to come back from a hamstring injury, and he just couldn't get it right in time to fly. So I got the call late Sunday to be there on the plane on Monday morning, which is great.
And what are you thinking in that period about like what you're doing next with your life?
Oh man, like to be honest, I'd started planning the rest of my life. I was like ringing different things I have going on behind the scenes that I wanted to just jump into that, and I wanted to bury my head in the sand in a rugby sense and just move on to the next chapter. But sport's funny, man, and it came back around, and it worked out, and now hopefully I'll be on the plane to the Olympics. That's the next squad I need to make.
Yeah, and so, but then you obviously start playing well enough to get back in the team pretty much straight away.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't know, Anthony Eddy just decided to back me. He just put me in at out half, and he seemed to like what I was doing, and I started every game from the second game on all the way through to the semi-final and the final, and I feel like I played my role in the team, and we won. So I'm delighted to just be part of the team and to play my role.
The Sevens is such a weird kind of bubble anyway in normal times, in that you kind of travel around and you play as a group. In COVID times, in a qualifier for the Olympics, that bubble must have been very intense.
During the pandemic, it was...
Just even in the qualifier there, the last tournament, like, everybody knows what's on the line.
Yeah, it was it's the most intense feeling. We were chatting last night as a team, and in the tent before going into the stadium to play the final game, no one was able to speak to each other. We were all nearly getting sick with the nerves, just because we know how much was riding on it. And it's not like it's a competition that's on again next year. You have to wait a full Olympic cycle to go again. Realistically, most of the team aren't going to be here again for the next Olympics, so it's like, it's do or die. This is it, lads. 14 minutes, you have to do it now, and thank God we did it. It worked out. All the training we did over the last 2 years, I'd say we were the most well-prepared team going into the tournament, just because the IRFU stuck with us and kept us training throughout the pandemic, sending out schedules for us to train 3-4 times a week. We kept doing like Zoom call to like gym classes together, just to keep morale up. And when we got back in, then we were all ready to go, and thank God we were fit and ready to win the thing.
So tell us about the final then. How did it go?
Man, there was a stage, I don't know if you saw it yourself, but we scored early on. Terry Kennedy went down the wing. He is just one of the best players I've ever played with in my life. He's incredible. He saw there was a little gap. He went down. We were 7-0 up. Perfect start. And then the crazy thing about sevens is a bounce of a ball and the game can change instantly. France got 2 tries back to back, and you're just thinking, no man, this can't happen. Like, this is everything. They can't take this from us. And got in at halftime, and we all kind of realised that we weren't tired. We were all still like laser focused, and you could tell that France were puffing a bit and they were struggling, and we just used that to kind of motivate ourselves to go again. 7 minutes, that's all it is. Like 7 minutes, just work yourself into the ground and see what happens. And it worked out. We got I think Jordan scored 2 tries and Harry scored then the final try, and then that's when we knew we had it, and it's just pure elation.
Yeah, what's that like? Who's the first person you call?
I called my father once I got back to get my phone, just because he's the big rugby man. Like, he's the reason I play rugby. My whole family, Shannon RFC back home, so rugby's always been in my blood. It wasn't an option that I wouldn't play. And then it's just hanging out with the lads. What was really nice was that because of the restrictions that are in around the world, but in Monaco, we weren't allowed out to any pubs or bars or nightclubs, and all we did was sit as a team on the floor outside the elevators for the night and just kind of sat chatting to each other, and that was actually ideal. We loved it. Right.
So you said the next thing is making selection for the games themselves. And we had Yvonne a little bit earlier on. The games we're counting down the time to the games in a matter of weeks now, as opposed to months. They're right there. So what happens? What's that process like, and how competitive is it?
Yeah, it's very competitive. There's a couple of guys coming back from injury now. A guy called Peter Maher, who picked up an ankle injury. He's back. He's an unbelievable player. He'll be putting his hand up for selection. Gavin Mullen's on the way back now. He was initially picked for the Olympic repechage. So, and then there's the 14 lads that were actually over there in Monaco. There was 2 travelling reserves as well. So that's a lot of people that can be picked. And I think only 13 can go. So there's going to be a few people upset again. And it could be me, but I'm hoping I did enough to get my name on the plane, and we can represent Ireland and just do the job over there, maybe grab a medal.
And when will you know?
I'm not actually too sure, man. It's going to have to be soon, I'd say, because the Olympic squads have been named. It's just because this was the last chance saloon, 1 spot left, and we managed to get it. So I'd say behind the scenes now, the Olympic Committee and the IRFU are all working everything out to try and get all the formalities done. And I'll say it's going to be soon enough.
Well, it must be, because it's 4 weeks, essentially. The 26th to the 28th of July is when the Sevens competition takes place, and it's in the Tokyo Stadium, which people will remember from the opening match of the Rugby World Cup in 2019. It's an incredible, like the fact that the Rugby World Cup was just there and the Olympics are going to be just there, and you're going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, going to it. What a whirlwind.
Oh man, it's the stuff of dreams. Like this, I touched on it earlier, but the amount people have sacrificed for this team is just, it's so emotional. Like, everyone has their own story. I kind of compare ourselves to the Gal lads in that we all have second jobs. Like, we're not paid well at all to play sevens. Like, we just do it because we love it, and to do it at the top of world sport. The Olympics is the pinnacle of sport, and we're going to go there. And it's just, we're all friends as well, so like going to Olympics with our mates, and oh man, it's incredible. And I'm just so happy for the lads and so proud of the performance we put in.
When you've seen the success of somebody like Hugo Keenan come from the sevens and just nail down the number 15 slot in the Ireland jersey, is there that hope for some of your teammates as well, that there is a career in the 15s game? Or the way you've talked about it there, kind of, for some people it's completely separate?
Yeah, man, it's a difficult one, to be honest. Hugo's done really well, and Will Connors and Jimmy O'Brien and people like that. Because the thing with them was they were always contracted to Leinster, so they were always going to go back. But the thing is, there's sevens lads playing there. Like Jordan Conroy, for instance, he's the top try scorer in the world for sevens. Probably the best winger I've ever played with in my life. And the thing is, he's just contracted to sevens, so it would have to take a 15s club to get up off their bums and look and realise how good he is and give him a shot at 15s. That's if he wants to play it. But it has been a great stepping stone for lads that are still contracted to provinces, and you can see that obviously because Hugo Keenan has the 15 jersey on his back for the 15s side.
As a matter of interest, Greg, why did you decide against having that lifestyle that some of your fellow Love Islanders have gone on to have? What was it that made you think, actually, you know what, I don't want that?
Yeah, it was such an easy decision for me, because even before I ended up winning Love Island, I was like, I'm always coming home. Regardless if I spent 2 hours in there or 2 weeks in there, I was coming home. It's just because we've put so many years into building the sevens team up, And if I just got way too big for my boots, went on a show for 2 weeks, won it, and thought I was the big man, move over to London and become a celebrity, I just wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror anymore, and I wouldn't have my mates. They'd all just be like, "You sold out," and it just wasn't part of me. I don't know if it's an Irish thing. I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't me. I had to come back and play my part for the team, and it was a big risk, and I nearly lost it all by not getting selected. But it paid off, and hard work pays off.
Was that straightforward? Was that an immediate thing? Like you kind of won and then obviously had a little bit of time afterwards where you're just having the crack, but then straight away back into it? Or was there part of you that was thinking, I need to investigate this celebrity lifestyle just a little bit, need to have a little look just to see exactly what it's like?
Yeah, no, man, it was straight away. So we got out of the villa on the 1st of August back in 2019, and I remember I was back training on the 26th of August. That was the first day of pre-season, and I said to everyone on ITV and everyone that was talking to me, I was like, I'm back training on 26, lads. I have to be home in Ireland for that time. Whatever I have to do between now and then, I can do. And so I did that, and it didn't go down very well. Obviously, I don't know if you followed the whole Love Island story, but I didn't stay with Amber, and I said, look, this isn't going to work. I'm trying to get to the Olympics. You're over there doing your celebrity stuff. Let's just call it a day now, so it doesn't get too emotional, and we don't get too deep. But that didn't work out. People weren't happy with me that I didn't follow the Love Island life, but I was happy with me, and it seems to have paid off now. But don't get me wrong, I've taken my opportunities in between what I've been doing. So I did my rugby, I did my law, and I took all my brand opportunities and my presenting opportunities in the middle of that. So I'm a happy man, and I took what I could get.
And so the Olympic Games are going to be over in a month. That's the other thing about this. It's like everything, and we've heard so much from Olympians in the past who are like, I put my entire life into qualifying for the Olympics. I went and I did the Olympics, and immediately afterwards I was like, what now? But I guess because you do have other things going on, that is less likely, or it might be a little bit of an easier transition for you.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary one because I have so many different things going on, but none of them are like solidified. You know, it's like I do a job here, I do a job there. I love the presenting. I never would in a million years thought I would have done presenting, but I got to go on a TV show, I did a radio show, and I really enjoyed that. So maybe go down that route. I really enjoy my fitness. I was doing a bit of pandemic Pilates for people during the first lockdown. I really enjoyed that. So I have a couple of things that I'd love to really delve into and give my energy to. But at the moment, the Olympics is the main thing in my life, and that's what's going to hopefully happen.
The Irish Joe Wicks, is that what we're hearing from Greg O'Shea today?
Well, maybe, man. We'll see what happens.
And come here, the actual training then over the next 2 or 3 weeks, how intense can it be? Or like it obviously needs to be up at a level so that you hit the ground running really quickly, because again, it's a short, sharp shock when you get over to Japan. But yeah, it's a brilliant issue to have. The strength and conditioning team and the coaching team needs to get together very quickly and go, okay, well, this is all a bit new, but probably you're used to it, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the S&Cs and the physios and the head coaches had all planned for us qualifying just in case it had happened. So they have all these sessions and everything that we're going to do planned out already for the next couple of weeks. But the greatest thing, one of the greatest things from the weekend is that no one got injured. So everyone's fully fit and ready to be selected. So training over the next 3 weeks will be intense. It's about keeping bodies fit, but also keeping the level of training at a high enough level so we can actually compete at the Olympics and do the country proud. And
I think it was yesterday, the day before, this year's contestants for Love Island were all announced. Was there a little twinge, or was it like I'm really glad that I did that and it's over in my life? Or how did you feel when you saw that coming out?
Yeah, man, I'm delighted I did Love Island. I think back now and I'm like, I would definitely do it again. So that says a lot to me that I would do it again. I've taken so many opportunities from it and it's been great. But I'm kind of sick and I haven't seen an Irish person in it now. There wasn't an Irish person in the winter one that happened, and there doesn't seem to be one in that lineup just yet. But hopefully there is throughout the summer, because the Irish people seem to do well when we go into the villa.
I was going to say,
more Higgins.
They're not mad keen when you win things, though. It's great until you win.
Yeah, they weren't too happy then when you go back home and follow your dreams.
Well, listen, we're all glad you did. Congratulations, Greg. Well done. Thanks a million.
Thanks a million, man. Really appreciate it.
It's Greg O'Shea there, part of the Ireland Sevens team who qualified for the Olympic Games. And as I said, that's happening really quick. It's the 26th of July that those games are going to be played. So we are hurtling very quickly towards the Olympic Games. 27 minutes past 9 this morning. Damien Delaney was on last night talking about Scotland's unusual sledging tactics when it came to Jack Grealish. Basically, they were like, whoa, look at your calves, Jack. You're a handsome man. How do you get your hair to look so good?
I don't know, Dimmy, if you saw the quotes from Stephen O'Donnell on marking Jack Grealish, and clearly he'd got the inside scoop from John McGinn, a good friend of Jack Grealish's, in terms of how to manage him and how to psych him out of it, I guess. And he says, thankfully, John McGinn had given me some tips. He told me that if he comes on, I need to get nibbling in his ear, but don't be critical, be complimentary. So the second he came on, I was telling him how good looking he was, that I loved his calves, and asking him how he got his hair to look like that. Have you ever heard of sledging being done in a positive, complimentary way?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you want to be nice to players, you want to upset them. But look, Jack Grealish is a fantastic player. And I suppose if you kick him, you could get him riled up. But again, I mean, as good and all as Grealish is, and all the Villa fans will probably hate me for this, I sometimes think that there's so much more in him. He always has an extra touch. He always seems to draw contact. No, he does get fouled. I'm not saying he's a diver, but I think there's a lot of times he could release the ball a split second earlier and keep the attack moving, but he sees players coming and he draws fouls, and sometimes that breaks the rhythm of the game. So maybe that's the reason that Southgate's not playing him. No, he is absolutely talented, don't get me wrong. He's a super player, but I just think the other two are ahead of him, Mount and Foden. But Sterling is the one for me as to why he plays him. He's probably the only player on the England team that runs in behind without the ball. And as I said earlier, you have to have a threat in behind. So he's got a couple of issues to sort out, but they're not in a bad spot. They're just not playing well. It's how he manages the criticism now and the kind of hype that's going to come around, well, the anti-hype, I suppose, the negativity that's going to come around that England haven't blown everyone away in 3-4-0 in both group games.
Yeah, that's exactly it, really. That's great stuff from Damien Delaney on the Euro 2020 show on OTB with Paddy Power yesterday. Shane's back previewing everything from 11 o'clock this morning across all of our OTB channels. So you get it on YouTube, you get it on Twitter, you get it on Facebook as well. And of course, the best place to get it is on OTB Sports Radio. You can just tell your smart speaker to play OTB Sports Radio on TuneIn, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we'll bring you top quality sports content. Now, a reminder, we are brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Tomorrow morning, we're talking Gaelic football with David Brady and Brendan Devaney. We'll chat to Chris Stark of BBC 5 Live about England. There's rugby with Keith Wood. We're going to hear from Philippe Auclair ahead of France against Portugal as well. Right now, though, more luxuriating in the success of the Sevens team. Here's Jordan Conroy with his story, Irish Rugby 7-star with Joe. Enjoy.
Jordan Conroy, Olympian. This has a nice ring to it. I like this. Jordan Conroy, Olympian. How's that sinking in?
I mean, it's just about kind of sinking in right now. Like after 24 hours, just realizing what we've done. And I'm just kept thinking over and over that, you know, I am an Olympian. And it's just a crazy thought, because I remember watching the 2012 London Olympics when I was doing the athletics, and I just said, oh, if I really put my head down, I could be there. And then just fast forward another 8 years and I'm here playing rugby. So it's just a crazy journey, and it's unbelievable, lads. It's actually unbelievable. A small boy from Tullamore Town just in the Olympics now. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, it is amazing. So give us a sense of Olympic qualification, because it's always quite complicated and there's different routes in. Was this like your last chance saloon this weekend to make it in? Had you had other previous chances over the last while, or had the pandemic interrupted it? Give us a sense of trying to make the Olympics this year.
So we had, so it was in France, in Colomers, in 2019, just before COVID hit. That was in July, and that was basically kind of same as Monaco. It was like top team gets the, so it was like the European one, so they get the final spot, and England got that one, but France knocked us out in the semi-final.
Okay.
So we kind of carrying a chip on our shoulder then, and then the world I can't even speak anymore. But the world thing in Monaco was literally the last chance for all the countries all over the world. So yeah, it was pretty high pressure. So it was all or nothing there.
And this was the last spot. So I mean, it was winner takes all. It wasn't like, oh, you finish tie for third, you get in. This was your only options are win or there's no Olympics. So I mean, like France generally are ranked pretty comfortably ahead of Ireland in sevens. You played them in the finals. So you beat Zimbabwe, Mexico, Tonga, Samoa in the pool stages, semi-final against Hong Kong, and then France in the final. Most neutrals would have been saying France have that in the bag, would they?
I don't know, because, you know, it's been very close games, to be fair, when we played them in the World Series and in the Euros. So always like small margins that they've beaten us by, and we literally look back at our games and look at the mistakes we've done. So we're always confident that they were there for the taking. It was just, it all trickled down to how we play and how we perform, and that was always the case. If we didn't perform to our best of our ability or to what we were able to play, France would have the edge. And I think this changed for us. We were so hungry for this last spot that we just came out like dogs and literally just had to blow them off the field.
So they were leading at 12-7. Tell us about the game. Was it tit for tat? Were you struggling first half? How did it all unfold?
You know what? Like our game was actually pretty decent. You know, we controlled possession for the first 2 to 3 minutes, and then we defended really well for the last 3 to 4. And you know, they did get rewarded after all the hard work. But I think our defense being so good tired them out and kind of left us, you know, confident going into the second half because it was such a close game.
Okay.
Then going into the second half, I don't know, it was just we all just had an extra gear, and I suppose that's when the magic happened, isn't it?
Oh, look, I heard the commentary. Conroy rinsed them. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, that's all she wrote, really. And after that, I just knew when I scored a try, it's there. We're going to take this, because I was going to make sure that we were winning, and we were going to win too.
Yeah. You mentioned your defence there, tiring them out potentially. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was just looking at the results across the weekend, and it jumped out to me that you're pretty measly in defence, as in Zimbabwe only managed 10 points against you, Mexico didn't even score against Ireland, Samoa scored 7, Hong Kong scored 5, France 19, with one of those scores being a late consolation. So Ireland's defence obviously pretty tight.
Yeah, it can be pretty tight, you know. Obviously it's not great on some days, but we really did focus on our defence and hunting up high. So that was one of our main focuses all the way leading up into it, because we knew how France played. We knew how some of the teams like to keep the ball alive, bounce on the inside, and just keep it going. So we had really areas there to work on, and I think we just executed very well. And, you know, the scoreboard does show it, but at the end of the day, we wanted to keep a clean sheet. But, you know, we couldn't do it. So, yeah, just kind of looking back at it, we're really pleased with it.
Look, you're continuing the brilliant form. You were Sevens Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year last year. You were top scorer. You scored 11 tries over the weekend. Terry Kennedy, ably supporting you, scored 9. So you two have a bit of chemistry out there. Tell us about that.
Oh, geez, yeah, it's like we're twin brothers. Like, we just know each other's ins and outs. And we said it again. It's due to playing so many years together. You just become as one. And you know, we say it, if it's not on for me, he'll use his footwork and score, because it's just, you don't know what's going to happen, because Terry has the ability to absolutely rinse as well if it's not me, because, you know, if they're worried about me, they're forgetting about Terry.
Sure.
And you cannot take your eye off Terry Kennedy, because if you do that a split second, you'll see him going under the post. And it's just the same with me, and that's why I think it works, having us two out there. It's just such a dangerous duo. And it just works pretty well, and it's fallen into place after all these years as well. You know, it's after repetition of just playing together and just knowing what works, and we just know it inside out.
You're, as you said, I mean, you mentioned athletics and being into your athletics, watching the London Games of 2012. I think a fair few people might be semi-familiar with your story. They know you're a late convert to rugby anyway. So, as I understand it, Jordan, you were living in Mannheim, Germany as a child. You moved to Tullamore at the age of 10 with your mother and your sister. I think your mother represented Offaly in Gaelic football as well. So, from Mannheim, Germany to Tullamore, how was that?
It was grand. We were moving kind of back to family, and she was kind of moving closer to home, which she wanted to do. But yeah, I don't think I'd be going to the Olympics if I stayed in Germany. So I'm kind of glad to be here in Ireland and have been raised here. And Tullamore is like where it all started for me, really. Any sporting aspects, but the rugby especially.
Right.
Like, I've got to give a big shout out to my origin club, like Tullamore Rugby Club. They've looked after me for years, made sure I had everything, and I'd say that club is the reason I pursued to go higher in rugby, you know. And, you know, a lot of the lads that are now retired that looked after me when I was a young 18-year-old, you know, have a lot of love for them and always remember where my roots are. So I've got to, and it's nice to kind of get the support back and seeing everyone just behind you. That makes the qualifying even more special, have all these people back home just rooting for you. And, you know, it's just something really special, and being able to represent Tullamore you know, in the Olympics as well, not just Ireland, is pretty special. I love it.
Am I right in saying you were 18 years of age when you first played a rugby match for Tullamore?
Yeah, all I knew is how to catch a ball and run in a straight line.
Okay.
Play again.
Was this like kind of run, Forrest, run kind of tactics for you, yeah?
Genuinely, that was it. Like, there was no strategy behind it. There was no, you see a little bit of space, just go for it and hope for the best. There was nothing really, you know, there wasn't really a rugby mind there. So it took quite a while to kind of get used to the game and just to, like, you know, play it properly.
Yeah, I'll bet. Your jackal technique on day one wasn't textbook.
Yeah, exactly. I play to my strengths, you know. There's areas I can probably improve on a lot more. But yeah, you're dead right. Yeah, I just stay on the wing and score them tries.
The Irish Sevens programme really launched, as we know it now, in 2015. And I saw Harry McNulty, who scored the 4th try yesterday. He's been involved from day one. You haven't been too far behind him, really. I think you first got involved in 2016 territory?
Yeah, in February. Yeah, okay. I came in that February. So I think it was 6-7 months when the program was started running, and that's when I came in. So I suppose I can't claim being one of the OGs, as the lads would say it, because, you know, I was a little blowing. But yeah, I think it's just like the perfect story for him to, like, score the final try and to see where he came from where he started. So it's like a little beautiful moment there. But yeah, you know, seeing where we came from all those years ago, it's just I don't know, it just feels special.
Well, Harry McNulty's first game, that very first game, was the European Grade C tournament in Bosnia. So the Olympics are a little step up from that. And how were you identified, Jordan? Was it just people recognised you had pace and huge potential and great athleticism, and so did you go on a trial, or how did it all work out for you?
My mum wanted me to go for the trials, but I had to play a cup semi-final against Barnhall with Tullamore, so I didn't get to go. But how the story happened was, this is how I found out. I scored a 21-second try when I was with Tullamore. I think it was like 19, and it went up on YouTube, and Joe.ie shared it, whatever, and it was just making around Facebook and so. Good friend and good teammate Foster Horn, Anthony Eddy asked Foster Horn, like, do you know anyone that's, you know, plays rugby and has a bit of speed, a bit of pace? And Foster goes, well, this lad here, Jordan Conroy, I played with him at the Midnight Sevens and he scored this try, have a look. And that's where I started from. And I happened to play a rugby match in Lansdowne Road on the Astro, where I live now. And he came and watched me, and I happened to score a try off my own 22. And I got the call up then, and the rest is history. Went up to my first day up in UCD. UCD Bowl, or not UCD Bowl, but out in UCD, and I remember I couldn't string a pass together, and I was like, I'm not going to make this. Honestly not, but you know, they believed in me, they had faith. He must have seen something, and yeah, you know, here I am now. Yeah.
So the first 2 times Anthony Eddy saw you were scoring tries from your own 22. He's thinking, that's all this guy does. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. They probably said, we could do something with him, maybe, you know.
Well, they were clearly right. I mean, your career in Sevens rugby has been off the charts good. I mean, you've just taken to it. What's been the biggest thing you've had to work on then? Is it tactics? Is it your passing? I know obviously Sevens isn't as demanding as 15s in that respect. What have you had to do?
Well, I'm going to go from the beginning. So I wasn't a very skillful player. So I had to perfect, you know, because in a game of Sevens, passing is a huge aspect of the game. You need to be able to pass off both sides, be able to do it quickly. So the first thing was trying to passing off both sides and perfect that. That took me about 1.5 years. I'm not going to lie. It was a slow process.
And how did you work on that, Jordan?
Literally, like, after every train session, I just spend 5 to 10 minutes just doing passing drills or exercises. Like, there was one, I just stand in front of the goalpost, and I was only allowed to move my arms, and I'd have to hit one of the lads in one spot, and I just kept repeating. So it was a lot of repetitions that kind of helped me there. And then again, the tackling needed to be brushed up as well. Well, I'm not saying brush up, actually need to improve a lot, because I was still kind of all new to this and haven't played the game in a lot. So tackling had to be done, and it was all just extras after training. And just at the end of the day, it's what you do off the pitch that makes you look good on the pitch. So putting in those extra few minutes after training every day, you know, they tend to build up, and just made the player I am today. So yeah, but still, I still do it after each change. We spend 5-10 minutes doing our lineouts, doing our passing, doing our tackling, because no one's perfect, and in order to keep on top of your craft, you need to always practice.
Because I've read a few pieces about you, and they always describe you as confident, but the hard working aspect maybe is underplayed as well. If that's that's how you turned into the confident type, I guess, is all the hard work.
Yeah, that's I want to back up that confidence with like a good base of hard work. I wouldn't boast about anything unless I've worked for it really hard. And that's what I kind of want to show, like what hard work does and where it can come. 5 years in the making, nothing but sweat, blood and tears. And we're going to the Olympics now. So obviously I'm going to embrace that and just, let everyone know that, this is what happens when you put your mind to it, and with a great bunch of lads as well. But yeah, I think I've grown into the confidence in the last 2-3 years, just not on the pitch, but as a person as well. And you can see it on my Insta and everything, I don't mind making a fool of myself, giving people a laugh off the pitch as well. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of all come together and fallen into place pretty nicely. And, it
sure has. It sure has. And so obviously you were athletically gifted and had that speed from day one. Are you faster now than you were 5-6 years ago? Or do you work on your speed as well, or does that kind of look after itself?
Do you know, it's different when you're on a grass pitch, but I think I probably am the fastest I am now. Well, probably before Corona, because I put on a bit of weight, but I've lost it all now, and I'm kind of back to where I am. I'm supposed to be running. Yeah, I was a bit worried during that, but everyone goes through it.
Sorry, hang on here. How much weight did you put on during COVID?
Oh, God, right. So the last game I played was in Vancouver in 2019 February. So I was 87 kg.
Okay.
And we came, so that was February, March, April, May. So we came back in August, and I was, that's just so bad. I was 95 kg. I was 95 kg, yeah. And then I kept losing the keg month, and I'm at a comfortable 90 now. So
you're still fighting back. And so did you just for COVID say, right, I'm going to go into my bunker here and play PlayStation? Is that what you did?
Genuinely, that's as bad as it was, because the 4 months it was basically no training, no nothing. So I was literally like a hermit, and I have a serious addiction when it comes to playing PlayStation. Warzone was my best friend. I'm not even joking. But the thing was, I was doing my runs and home gym so early in the morning that when I was finished by midday, I'd just do nothing. I wouldn't go outside for a walk or anything. I just make my food, bring it up to my room, eat it, and just play PlayStation for 9 hours straight or something. And that was like rinse and repeat every day. And I was shocked. I was shell-shocked. I was like, 95. Surely not Jordan Conroy.
But best 4 months of your life.
Yeah, I was gaming every day. I had nothing to do. I was like, I might as well cherish this, because when we get back, it's going to be torture. I know I'm going to be coughing up a lung or something.
Yeah.
So it wasn't pretty.
I was just going to say, I'd say losing that weight was no fun.
No, because, it had me doubtful at times, because I wasn't hitting my top speed. I wasn't as agile as I was, and I was just kind of getting into my head. I was like, am I going to get this back? I messed it up, but no, my S&C coach and nutritionist were on the ball, and they're like, look, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Once you get back training and everything and back to the normal kind of running you do, you'll be fine. And I mean, a year later, yeah, it's grand.
Huh. So the Sevens program generally, you guys are all full-time, I think. I know, like, the money's not going to do you forever, so I think a lot of them are doing careers on the side, or maybe education on the side. Where are you in that space? Are you kind of chilling and enjoying the present? Are you worried about your 30s and beyond? So tell us how the Sevens works from that point of view, because it's always talked about as like a young, glamorous game and travel the world and do it for a couple of years kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. Like there's always like a plan B. I have my course so I have 3 years done. If I want, I can do 1 more year, but the way I see it is like, I'm going to enjoy the rugby now, do it as long as I can. I mean, if you look at the likes of Dan Norton, who's like 32, and he's looked after himself all over those years, that kind of the route I kind of want to see, because getting a taste of the Olympics, I really want to stay in the program to try and get to France 2024. So I'll just be 30 years of age. So I'm kind of looking down that route. And you know, when I do finish rugby, I'll have a plan B to fall back on, so I can either finish my final year or just use my 3 years and then just go and work as a social worker. Or you never know. This is the thing. Like, I never thought I'd be going to the Olympics playing the sevens. You never know what doors might open at the end of the line, at the end of the tunnel. So, you know, how do you make God laugh? Tell him you have a plan. So I don't really have a certain plan after rugby, but I know I have things, you know, options that are there.
Social work, very interesting career, tough career.
Yeah.
What drew you to that? That's tough work, great work.
Yeah. To be honest, it was my career guidance teacher back when I was in Leaving Cert. She just said, you know, you just have a way with people, and you know, you're very good with people. You're very good at like working with them and etc. And then she kind of veered me into the youth aspect of it. She thinks I should be working with young teenagers or kids, and so that's what I did on my work placement. I worked in a few programs, like Garda programs, which is very, how do I say, very, very tough and challenging at times. Because being such a young lad, I did get respect, but like working with 16, 17-year-olds and you're only 5 years older than them wasn't really a great scenario to be in. But I think where the rugby came in, it kind of worked out better, because like that kind of a job, you want to be older, kind of say 28, 29, 30 years of age. I just wanted to have a lot more life experience behind me before I go into that work, because some days were pretty tough and were pretty grim, but that's the job, you know.
Yes.
But something that I will look into if I go into it. But yeah, for now it's just tunnel vision.
No,
rugby,
I hear you.
Rugby.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And those days were tough, as in you're seeing kids in very difficult circumstances, and it's really sad and hard to see.
Yeah, you know, hearing some of their stories as they open up to me fairly quickly as well, and just hearing stories like that, you're just like, wow, how do you survive? How do you keep going? And that's kind of where I want to be. I just want to be able to guide kids who are having trouble in life like that. But again, I had to do a lot of growing up myself. So I just wasn't ready for that kind of, do you know what I mean? I wasn't ready for that kind of work. But yeah, and there's just instance there, a lot of fights and a lot of racism going on. You're just kind of like, oh, it's a lot to take in. But, you know, I'm well able to handle it now, you know. I've been in that environment, and yeah, it's just something to look at anyway.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's a few years away yet, and like you said, maybe this day and age, modern S&C players can go that bit longer. Who was the player you mentioned who's still going at 32?
Dan Norton.
Dan Norton. He didn't put on 10 kgs in lockdown is the only thing, but...
No, he didn't. He looked after himself. See, that's the wisdom there. When I'm his age, I'll know not to do it again if we ever head into a pandemic. There'll be no war zone and no pizzas.
Don't say if we head into it again. I don't think we could take it, could we?
Yeah, touch wood.
Oh, man.
I don't mean that.
So, the Olympics then, we have, of the 12, New Zealand, shocker, New Zealand, top of the pile, Fiji, South Africa, USA, Japan, Argentina, Australia, Canada, Britain, Kenya, so like South Korea, and now Ireland. So what's a realistic ambition for people who haven't watched much sevens and they kind of think, oh, if you don't win a medal, you're nobody? What would be a good Olympics for Ireland, Jordan, or is it hard to say?
Well, it wouldn't be hard to say for us. Obviously, we're going to go in with a winning mentality, and wouldn't even say top three, but I'd love to say we're going for gold. That's the end goal. I mean, you know, qualifying for the Olympics is one job, but, you know, we're going into that tournament looking to win as well. I mean, we've played I don't think we've played, but we've played most of the big teams in there, and we know what to expect from these teams. So it's not like we're going in and we've never played and we don't know what to expect. We know what to expect, and we have a game plan for each, and it's just up to us to execute that plan. So, I mean, of course, you know, going for gold would be the agenda for us. Yeah. Okay. And for anyone that's watching, just get behind us.
Well, listen, I mean, we love a bandwagon. Don't worry, we'll be there. Rugby.
Look, I mean, it's right.
Rugby and Off the Ball is thanks to Vodafone, official sponsor of the Irish rugby team of us, everyone in. We're talking to Jordan Conroy, who's going to the Olympics, which is very nice news. There's a YouTube comment in from a Conor Hegarty saying, Jordan, my man, congratulations, representing everyone in Tullamore.
No way, that's my good school friend. Hego, if you're listening, big shout out to you. I hope you're doing well. He's a teacher, teaching the young kids. He's teaching the young kids of the future.
Okay. Well, he's watching on YouTube and he's saying, good man, representing Tullamore. And then Hannah in Naas asked the key question, would Jordan consider following Greg O'Shea's footsteps and going on Love Island?
No, not really. Love Island has been there, done that, so we don't need another copy in there. And I'm just happy to stay with the rugby and focus on the Olympic goals. That's all that was in my head.
Greg O'Shea was
fun, though.
I'm sure. Greg O'Shea was a late call-up, wasn't he? He wasn't expecting to be in Monaco. I saw him saying on the pitch afterwards, and then he got the call.
Yeah, just certain things happen, and he got his opportunity, which I'm absolutely delighted with. He was there when we qualified for the World Series in Hong Kong, and I felt it was only right that he got the same opportunities we did and qualifying for the Olympics, and he had a major part to play in, and I'm absolutely delighted. Me and my mother were very close, so I couldn't have asked for a better 10, and he put in a major shift, and hopefully that proves why he should be selected more often and never not to be picked again.
And Jordan, sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot here. With the Olympics, will everybody that is part of the Sevens programme get to go, or will there be like a limit on the squad and some people will have to stay at home, or is that decided yet?
Yeah, it's you can only bring a squad of 12.
Right.
You can bring a squad of 13, but only 12 get selected. So, I mean, I'm not saying there's still spots up for grabs,
and how many guys would be kind of in contention or looking to get into that 12 or 13?
All of them. I mean,
and how many?
I know. That's it. I'd say 20.
Okay, so there'd be
20 of us.
Plenty of competition.
Yeah, and that's what was said. We'll get the job done, and then when we come back, going to the Olympics, there's again spots open, and who says my spot's guaranteed? I'm not saying that it will be, but I'm going to train my hardest in the next 2-3 weeks, to make sure I'm on that plane to Tokyo.
Yeah, for sure. So that 20, you guys working together is it the high performance unit that you train in?
High performance out in Abbottstown, out where the 15s train, where we train, so that's our home.
So you're a tight unit. You're out there most days?
Yeah, 4 days a week, if it's weekends as well. Been there the last year and a half, so it's out there every morning and home every evening, and rinse and repeat, as I said. But they're gorgeous facilities. I love training there, especially on the cold days in winter when you get to go indoor on the 4G pitch. Oh, it's heaven.
As opposed to outside at the Aviva on the 3G there,
Yeah, genuinely. I call them days the trenches. They made us the players we are today, made us hardy,
Okay,
but
so you're going to go soft in that high performance unit indoors. You need to get you outside in the winter.
Yeah, but it makes sense because you've got to see the kind of conditions we play in. We don't play in rain anymore. We're playing 35 degrees, sunshine, so you need a dry ball, but yeah, it's fine.
Well, listen, there's loads of messages coming in saying congratulations, and it's obviously, for you and for the guys who've been there a long time, it's been a long old road, and for Irish Sevens, men's Sevens to reach the Olympics is fantastic. So the very best of luck. Enjoy the next couple of weeks. Enjoy all the hype and the excitement and the well wishes, and then give him hell out in Tokyo. Hope it goes great for you.
Will do. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, pleasure. Pleasure's ours. Jordan Conroy, thanks so much.
Certainly after that game, a lot of the focus was on Harry Kane, as we mentioned. Would you be worried about Harry Kane's, lack of form in the opening 2 games, or are we all getting ahead of ourselves, or the English media just losing their heads as they usually do in a major tournament?
Well, I think the hype that was surrounding England going in, that's why people are expecting, the levels of hype that Italy had and France had. We were expecting England just to bowl through the group stages, rack up 7-8 goals and just put everyone to bed early, and the exception has not been that. The one thing I will say, the one kind of mitigating factor for Southgate, and I don't want to be naive, but I don't believe that Gareth Southgate is either. He's been preparing for this tournament for 2 years. And the one thing he has done with England, I've been really impressed with, he had made them very tactically flexible. And they are certainly conservative in the first 2 games. You know, when you think Trippier at left back, you think Harry Kane dropping as deep as what he's dropping. There's no real fluidity. They look very solid. They look like they're built for a counter-attack. And I like the... I mean, I might be giving Southgate too much credit, but I think he's a smart guy. I know he's very methodical. And I can't help feel he's preparing for something. He's maybe thinks that if they top the group and they get that Germany, Portugal or France teams, that they will need to be conservative. They will need to be counter-attacking. They will have to be defensively solid, because you think that the team that played against Scotland and the way they played is the way they'd play if they came out and played France or Germany. No, it probably is a bit of a stretch to think that he's so calculated that he's playing for second in the group. I mean, that really would be very, very risky. But there's an element, maybe he doesn't want to blitz the group. I don't know. I'm just trying to talk about that. I don't think this would happen by accident, you know, that England have become very, very flexible in the way they play. So I think there's something behind it. I hope there is, because if they go out with a whimper, there'll be absolute carnage.
What's your read on Werner as a finisher?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, Joe. So back in, I think, 2015, 2016, I went down to Stuttgart to watch them play. And Werner was a player at Stuttgart at the time before he joined RB Leipzig. And what was so thrilling about him at the time, and he was being hyped as the next superstar of German football then, was his ability to break into space, to get into great shooting positions, but not score. So you just felt, okay, if he sorts the finishing out, he's going to be unbelievable.
Okay.
Then he goes to RB Leipzig and does. He did sort the finishing out. It's not like that problem lingered. There were games, certainly I covered, hat-trick he scored away at Borussia Mönchengladbach. You could find the highlights of it online. His finishing was effortless. It was like, Joe, honestly, there were times where, and he had been streaky in the back, his final season in Germany. Maybe there'd be the odd run of 4 or 5 games where he wouldn't score. But his finishing did look natural. He looked very comfortable, getting to a shooting position. That sort of, it feels lazy to say Thierry Henry position. Your left side of the area, you shoot with your right, and you just knew he was going to score most of them. He was not coming to the Premier League, in my mind, as an Alvaro Morata kind of character. In my head, he'd fixed his finishing. A bit like, if I'm honest, when I saw Mo Salah at Basel. For some reason, I covered Basel when he was there, and you're like, oh, if he could only finish, what a player he'd be. And then he did sort that out. Mo Salah used to miss loads of chances. And then Werner seemed to sort it out. So this actually feels like a regression to me, in a sense. I still feel that he could become that player, but maybe he isn't the centre forward. At Leipzig, he was often deployed in the 2 with a big Danish striker playing for the national team right now, Yusuf Poulsen, or alongside Patrick Schick, actually, in the guy who scored from the halfway line for the Czechs a couple of seasons back. Maybe in a front 2 is where he's best, but not many teams play with 2 up front anymore. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll see it in the Premier League, but honestly, mate, he was scoring for fun in Germany. So I don't know what's happened. Yeah.
Maybe he rediscovers it. Let's see how the Germans go.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new